If everybody could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, Kelly, can you please take roll and verify quorum?
Sure thing. Brad Conway,
Present.
Tyler Hinman,
Present.
Alina Johnson,
Present.
Kim Rossiter,
Present.
Sarah Collins,
Present.
Julia Moreno Fritz,
Present.
Bill Newman Jr.
Here.
We have a quorum of the Ward 6 Neighborhood Advisory Board.
Thank you, Callie. I do want to make a very quick announcement. We do have some agenda item changes.
Brad, we can do that during A3, approval of agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right, do we have any public comments?
Comments heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the NAB's agenda. The NAB may not take action upon any matter not agendized on today's agenda. When you're called on for public comment, please state your name for the record and begin speaking. The timer will begin when you say your name and you will be afforded 3 minutes. If you're an attendee in the Zoom meeting and would like to make public comment at this time, please raise your hand. Chair, I don't have any requests to speak forms in person. We don't have anyone online raising their hand for general public comment.
Thank you. Okay. We need to make a couple of changes to the agenda. We are going to B1 has been withdrawn. Item B2 has been withdrawn. Item B4 and B5 will be heard together, and we are going to go out of order. We are going to hear the A items first, then the C items, then the B items, and then we will continue with the agenda. So with that, I do need to get a motion and a second to approve tonight's agenda.
Tyler Hinman, for the record, I move to approve the agenda.
I will make a second to that motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. All opposed? None. It carries. Okay, we need an approval for the June 26th meeting. I need a motion and a second.
Tyler Hinman, for the record, I move to approve.
I will make the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you. Item A5, Council Liaison Report. Councilmember Anderson. Always good to see you.
Good evening. Thank you guys for gathering this evening. I just have some council updates to share with you. First, we're going to start with the September NAB, which is in a month from now. The current date lands on Labor Day. So if we don't have any development projects for September, the NAB will be rescheduled to, or sorry, if there are development projects in September, the NAB will be rescheduled to another date. So just keep an eye on our emails and we'll let you know what that's going to look like. I'm going to start reporting on upcoming council meetings. There will be a council meeting on August 12th and August 26th. Our planning commission is going to be meeting on August 5th and August 19th, and any other meetings you can find on Reno.gov. Just some things that were approved by the planning commission recently. I think you all remember seeing the Ladera annexation, master plan amendment, and zoning map amendment. They came in front of you in the ward, in front of the NAB in June. And that was all approved by the council last week. Not last week, the week before last. Upcoming events in Ward 6. On Friday, we're having our biggest little council connect. So if you'd like to meet me at the Reno Tahoe Cafe over there on Veterans Parkway at, let's see, it looks from 11 to 12. We're just going to be gathering and talking about issues in the ward. So I missed a couple of you last time that I thought were going to be there. I hope that you guys can make it on Friday. And then I don't know if you all know if anybody's been attending the Food Truck Wednesdays at Scion Park this summer, but they're every Wednesday from 4 to 8 until August 26th this year. Some upcoming downtown events. If you want to come join us downtown, we have Hot August Nights. We'll be in downtown from August 4th to August 9th. You can find out all of the different event information on augustnights.net. And then we have some ongoing events, Harmony on the River, which is a free community concert series from the Reno Phil, which again is every Tuesday from 6 to 8:15 at West Street Plaza until August 25th. House on the River, our local DJs curating Biggest Little Tribe, yard games, food trucks, and more. You can find them every Wednesday at the West Street Plaza from 6 to 9 until August 26th. And then Reno Ecstatic Dance. I don't know if you've seen any of the content online about the Reno Ecstatic Dance, but it looks like a really fun event. It's an all ages event. It's a sober event, and it aims to create a concert-like experience with a nonverbal dance floor. So ecstatic dance takes place in cities worldwide and creates time and space for you to focus on movement and dance. It's free form, and there are no expectations on whether you're there to drop in with yourself or dance with others. So it's on August 6th from 6:45 to 9:30 at the California Building if you feel like going and moving your body with people in the park. Saturdays in the park, I don't know if you've seen any content about what's been going on, the breakfast club on Saturday mornings at Barbara Bennett Park downtown. It's an all ages outdoor art experience that reimagines plain air painting with live performers, sculptures, creative surprises along the Riverwalk. Oh wait, Saturdays in the park is different than breakfast. Sorry. That's also happening. Obviously, this is a long list for me today. Anyway, there's a lot of summer events downtown and in Ward 6, so I hope that you guys are able to make it up. Thanks for being here tonight. There's a lot on the agenda. I hope
Thank
it
you,
goes well.
Councilmember Anderson. And I would like to add, there is a lot going on in the city right now. And so anybody that may be watching online or out here tonight, visit the city's website. You can sign up for emails and get an email I think it's every week that it comes out of events that are happening. And that's a lot of fun. Great way to find out what's going on if you're looking for something to do. All right, moving on to item A6, our staff liaison report. Kelly.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I am staff liaison Callie Shy. Just a couple reminders today. Just wanted to remind the board and members of the public about Reno Direct, the city's non-emergency service center. If you have any questions or inquiries here at the city, you can give them a call or send them an email. Thank you to everyone for attending tonight and confirming your attendance. You'll get another quarterly quorum email in just a couple weeks, but just remember it's your responsibility to confirm your attendance before every meeting. Another reminder about the city's newsletters for this ward, especially the Ward 6 newsletter. If you're interested in learning about development projects, there's a newsletter for that. There's also a newsletter for council agendas and the Reno Report, which is a snapshot of the latest Reno news from City Manager Jackie Bryant. We had a pretty full agenda tonight with development items. We've since had 2 withdrawn, but we still have 3, 2 of which are related. So get those project worksheets filled out and turned in by Friday, whether you turn them in on paper tonight, via email or via the form. As a reminder, the worksheets are the best way for you to ensure your feedback is noted on the public record and included for consideration in the Planning Commission and or the City Council's review of the projects. And we also have the public comment requirement from board officers. So it's your job to summarize discussion from board members and the public at the meeting tonight and send that over. That's just one of our officers, not all 3 of you have to do it. But with that, we have a planning commission meeting this Wednesday, a council meeting next Wednesday, and then like Councilmember Anderson said, the September meeting is to be determined, but the next meeting will be October 5th. And that's all I've got tonight.
Thank you, Kelly. I will take on the board member comments. I've got time to get it done this week. So I'll take on the officer comments. Okay. All right. So we are going to skip around on the agenda tonight, and I'm really hoping I don't lose track of anything. I know somebody will slap my hand if I do. So we are moving on to business items, and we are going to do C1 first, which is a quarterly update from the Reno Police Department.
You want to start or you want me to start? Good evening. My name is Tom Turby. I'm a lieutenant with Reno Police Department.
And I'm Corey Solferino, Chief of Police. Nice to meet you.
I was just commenting to the chief how interesting it is because I started doing NABs 20 years ago almost when I was on probation as an officer. So we've come a long ways. So if you look at the PowerPoints that we've been given, we get the chief's update.
I'll go ahead and take this one real quick. I just want to talk about some of the things that we're doing within the Reno Police Department. Since I've been there since March 9th and officially in the capacity, not as interim as acting from March 9th and through May 20th when I was officially sworn in as the Chief of Police. Really want to focus on the building blocks of a successful foundation. The men and women of the Reno Police Department continue to answer the call. And that's what I want to talk to each and every one here attending and those virtually at home. That may be watching is that the men and women continue to answer the call for service. That never stopped. While we were going through some hierarchy and some organizational redevelopment, the men and women continue to answer that call. Lieutenant Whiteturb and his team are just, I think as an outside perspective coming in, the amount of compassion that they have for each of the calls, the amount of work that they do, the cases that don't come to press release or to social media, I get to see them every night and pass down. And the amount of work that they're doing on a daily basis should just be commended. But one of the things that we really want to focus on right now as we're coming in is rebuilding that internal trust and communication with not only our department, but the community that we serve, strengthening our staff, improving communication within our community, expanding our transparency and managing current enforcement priorities. So one of the things that I want to tell all my Ward 6 people here in attendance tonight is while the entire city is important to me, I'm a resident of Ward 6. So a lot of these things hit close to home as far as what's important. Our growing community down south, the traffic, the issues that I'm hearing from Reno Direct with respect to parking, speeding, e-bikes and the like, as we're working on initiatives to address those on a strategic manner moving forward. We tried to get into the schools before the end of the school year to talk about education for e-bikes and making sure that people were doing that responsibly. Unfortunately, because of the timing in which that came up with, principals were unable to get us in before the end of the school year because they had their curriculum that they had to do. So we are on their agendas to hit that very important topic this year because I think it starts with responsible parenting and making sure that people are aware of what they're entrusted with and what they're doing in our communities, not just Ward 6, but across the board. E-bikes is not an issue that's just prevalent to Ward 6. When I was wearing the green uniform, I was dealing with it exclusively up in Incline Village and throughout Washoe County. So it continues to be a problem that we want to bring awareness and education to. You may or may not have seen some speed trailers that were deployed in Ward 6 last week. No, they're not broken. I'm collecting data. So while they're not giving digital feedback saying that you're driving too fast right now, they're collecting the amount of vehicles that are coming through, our peak hours of performance, when people are driving X amount of miles an hour over the posted speed limit. So we can use that data and be more strategic in our deployments with our traffic enforcement and when we're spending our time down there. Obviously, if you leave Ward 6 in the morning, traffic commuter time is at a premium, whether people are jetting out to the northeast through Veterans Parkway or whether they're trying to get onto the freeway through South Meadows, Damani Ranch, Steamboat, and those other areas. So we're collecting data right now to make sure that our enforcement efforts are done timely and that they're done for the best bang for our buck. So we get a good return on investment for that. One of the things I want to talk about, rebuilding internal trust and communication. We have started to build our current command staff. So Assistant Chief Garlock was fortunate enough to answer my phone call and come in and dive in with both feet. So he and I are currently taking a look at all of our policies and procedures. We're working with legal, we're working with the associations, and we're working with the city too, because I did not believe in the system that we had purchased. I had some bad issues with Lexipol when I was working at the sheriff's office. So we saved the city some money by terminating our contract with Lexipol and going with a system that currently the city already owns in Power DMS. One of the things that's nice with Power DMS is it will be public facing once all of our policies are codified, once they're agreed upon between the unions and legal, is that will be part of our public facing webpage. So if There is a FOIA request for a policy. People won't have to do FOIA requests. They'll be able to visit all of the Reno Police Department policies through Power DMS on our webpage. I think that's important and helps break down some of the issues that happen when you're trying to formally go through a FOIA and a records request, and there's some time that passes in between the request and actually getting that information. It'll literally be live, and you'll be able to see that in real time. Strengthen staffing. We've had some tragedy within our departments, as I'm sure everybody's aware. Over the course of the last year and a half, we've lost some officers, and the effect that that plays on not only our community, but our department. I want to thank this group, but more or less, I want to thank the citizens of Reno for their compassion, their notes, reaching out either individually to myself or to members of our department for our losses. But that it plays a role on our department. Officer wellness is extremely important. When I first started in the late 90s, we were just told to shake it off and deal with it. That's how we dealt with trauma. Shake it off, deal with it. Don't admit that you're having any issues processing that information. It was seen as a sign of weakness. Now we truly understand what's happening in the wellness space and how we can combat that through our peer support groups, through our clinicians, through our mobile outreach safety team. There's a lot of different ways that we can do that. It starts with health and safety and wellness. We have a beautiful new public safety center that has a wonderful gym that's free to use for all of our sworn and professional staff. We got to take care of ourselves before we can take care of the community. When I had the opportunity to go to the Southern Police Institute and wrote my thesis on general strain theory and maladaptive coping strategies and how it affects police officer legitimacy, what that boils down to is if we don't take care of our officers and we continually leave that piece unchecked, that bad things happen, and it's whether it's a alcoholism, dependent upon opiate drugs because of an on-duty injury and they can't get back to full duty, extramarital affairs, all of the different things that happen in bad time when they're not checked upon and that kind of steamroll and complicate matters is now we have early warning detection systems. So I can see if a particular officer has had a disproportionate number of uses of force or pursuits or citizen complaints. Does that tell our sergeants that we need to start intervening at a more critical level to make sure that our officers are acting in accordance with policy, but honestly, that they're doing okay. I hit those flags as a young officer myself because I was in a K-9 unit that was taking down high-risk felons. So I was disproportionately exposed to a higher number of uses of forces because of the nature of my assignment than the line level officer. So we have safeguards throughout our department that allow our supervisors to see when that's happening in real time and catch it before it becomes a pattern. We currently have an academy underway. We just graduated 20 academy recruits at the June academy graduation. We had one start 2 short weeks later. We had 11. We've already lost one in that academy. We have 10. We're currently working with the city manager's office and council to try to plan for attrition and get 25 into the January academy. We only run 2 academies a year, so it's critical for the public to understand what it takes for an officer to get hired, go through the background process, go through the training academy, and then go through the FTO or the field training officer page. That takes about 18 months from the time of application to the time that that officer is in a billet position on the roster as a single unit, not as a double unit in training. So trying to keep up with our attrition, trying to keep up with everything that's happening in our academy. We want to make sure that we've got the right number, the quality officers that are in there. So we're going to be shooting for a rather large academy again next January. Improving communication with the community. We've recently reinstituted a Chiefs Advisory Panel that is a mixed group of business and private public partnerships to act as an advisory body to the Chief of Police. So when we have issues that are important to the public, is working with those community members, working with those business members to make sure that we've got a good representation of how our policies, how our practices are being viewed in the community and making good recommendations on how we move our agency forward. The impact panel, a little bit different, more of our faith-based organizations, working with the ACLU, working with our Latino community, working with our universities to talk about those critical topics that are happening in our space. 6 years ago, where it's funny because when Lieutenant White Turbity gets up to the top 5 calls for Reno Direct, where they are today versus where they were 5 years ago, you see them almost inversely proportional to where they were, where homelessness was mostly the top prevalent conversation that we were talking about on a daily basis. It doesn't make our top 5 anymore. It's just barely ranking at 5. So really, we've redefined by taking a community-centered approach to what we're doing and how we're addressing it. We're tackling those issues, and unfortunately, we're good at solving a lot of things, so we recreate new issues. But this impact panel is really good for having a test group to talk about what we're doing, how we're doing it, and selling that to the rest of the community. And here today, through our neighborhood advisory boards, to be able to talk to what we're doing, what you guys want to see from your Reno Police Department, what are issues that are pervasive to Ward 6, Ward 3, Ward 1, and being able to address those on a quarterly basis, at least from the Chief of Police perspective and from the City of Reno Police Department. As we expand transparency, our team back here, I have some in attendance. Kayla, I'm going to sing her praises, and Christy Smith, I'm going to sing their praises. We've been neglecting to put down an annual report. We kind of keep moving the matrix from year to year. Sometimes we do a visual, sometimes we do a video, sometimes we do an annual report. I want to get back to the last 5 years of tracking what our crime data is reporting, what it's saying, the initiatives that we're bringing forward, and bringing you that data on a yearly basis. So we're comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges. We are not just picking those community feel-good topics to show you what we are doing. I like critical feedback. I like to tell you when we've succeeded. I like to tell you when we failed. And I'm not afraid to tell you when we failed. And I think this report will be good for the public and for the NABs to see where we have put our concentrated efforts and where we have done well and where we have failed you. One of the things where we have failed you is our traffic unit. It's a third of the size today as it was 20 years ago. That's a problem. When we start dealing with street racing on Friday night with what's happening on the McCarran presents its own different issues because it's literally 4 different jurisdictions, but it's the primary responsibility of the Nevada State Police. But obviously we know majority of the McCarran loops in our backyard, and a lot of the Reno Direct complaints are for that. So how do we get out there and how do we best enforce those times, those peak performances with our limited resources specifically related to traffic? And we do it through data collection and evidence-based practices. And kind of told you we're doing our little experiment right now in Ward 6, and then we will be taking that show on the road. Expanding transparency. I think that's huge to tell you guys what's happening. For the longest time, we didn't report what our regional gang unit was doing, and I didn't know why. They took more guns off the street from prohibited persons than any other unit. So you'll see our social media page has been a little bit more active talking about the crime data and what our people are doing in real space. I think it's very important for our citizens to know what is happening and what isn't happening in Reno. So we're going to continue to do that moving forward. Our internal affairs activity, one of the other things that we're going to do when we put forward our public facing portal is internal affairs. You'll be able to see how many cases that they've done, our use of force data. What that use of force data breaks down to is how many officers are involved in use of forces, what are the race of those the use of forces that we're involved in, and what the complaints is for those officers. How many are exonerated? How many are substantiated? To the extent that we can be transparent with that, because there are certain 289 protections with respect to discipline. I want you guys to see how many complaints are coming through, how those are vetted, how we handle those too. And I can tell you unequivocally, since the introduction of body-worn cameras, those complaints have been let's just say a lot of the complaints go away when we have a total record of what's happening. A lot of times people don't like to be told that they're doing something wrong or that one of our officers was discourteous. You go back and you review it, and there was nothing more gratifying as a young supervisor to see that our officer acted within policy, that they were polite, and that the motorist was just, for lack of a better term, upset with getting a ticket. So I will deal with those all day long. I can deal with training issues. I can deal with courtesy issues. What I can't deal with are people out there treating the public poorly. That will not be tolerated. And I'll tell you guys that here right now. And our officers are overwhelmingly doing well in this space. So thank you, body-worn cameras, for that. We start talking about our policies and procedures. That is going to take, I wish I could say we could be done tomorrow. It's going to take some time, but we're going to do it right. And as we get it done right, we're going to forward face all those to the public for everyone to see. Managing our current enforcement priorities, traffic, as you guys heard, that is just literally our Achilles heel. As our officers are out there, what we're trying to do is throw all of our support behind the patrol division. We have this unique ability to create special teams to address special things that are happening in our community. 5 years ago, when the HEAT team, our human exploitation and trafficking team, was created, they were operating out of our street enforcement team. But as we started to identify and take a victim-centered approach to human trafficking, sex trafficking, and its impacts on Northern Nevada, we identified the need to create a regional team and pull those resources to bear to go deal with that specifically. We have a habit of becoming very specific and on targeting certain crimes. We want to get back to reinforcing the backbone of the Reno Police Department, which is patrol. So when the public picks up the phone and calls and you need us, we will be there, and augmenting that with our traffic. So our focus over the next year is really focusing on patrol, really focusing on traffic enforcement, and making sure that our community members are safe and that we're driving safely. I would encourage all of you on your way home this evening, or perhaps throughout the next week as you're driving around our community, take a look when you're stopped at a stoplight and just watch the driving behavior around you. Guaranteed you will see, if not everybody in your space, you will see at least 50% of the people on a stoplight responding to an email, looking at their phone, writing a text. And unfortunately, when we have distracted driving, that is 10 times more deadly distracted driving than impaired driving. That should scare each and every one of us in here, especially as we have young men and women in the office, and we've got more teenagers grabbing their licenses every day. And you know that it takes about 1 to 3 years to become competent in driving and have that confidence out there. And some are never good at it. But we want to make sure, especially that our young drivers are paying attention to the roadways as they're learning how to navigate a city that is undoubtedly growing around us. E-bike enforcement, we touched on that briefly. We're going to be doing more public-facing communication, working with the school district, working with Washoe County Sheriff's Office to make sure that that community message is constant and strong. And then we're also looking at increasing legislation with the upcoming legislative session next year in Carson City. And our Hope and Heat teams. One of the things that I do want to talk about is tomorrow, Chief Crawforth of Sparks Police Department, Sheriff Balaam of the Washoe County Sheriff's Office, and I are having our quarterly meeting to talk about our regional teams, what we're bringing together, that memorandum of understanding, so we can really truly address crime from a regional perspective and not from an individual perspective. Because while we might respect jurisdictional boundaries as we're going to calls for service and saying, well, nope, that's Nevada State Patrol or Nevada Highway Patrol, and that's Washoe County Sheriff's Office. Criminals do not care about jurisdictional boundaries. So the same people that are victimizing people in Sparks and Carson City and Douglas County and Northern Nevada are hitting all of our jurisdictions. So we want to make sure that we're giving a good regional approach to crime reduction. And I will let Lieutenant Uturbity take the rest.
Well, that's hard to follow, but I'll go over the next slide. Involved in Ward 6, April to June 2026. So you can see the top 5 Reno Direct calls for service. That's when everybody's calling in. We've pushed this very deeply over the last few years to try and direct information to the correct components to help combat what is going on. I know everybody likes calling the police because we're always there 24/7, but sometimes there's a better tool that should be used. So just looking at it, parking illegally, parking enforcement's just recently come over the Reno PD, so that's in our traffic department, like the chiefs talked about. Traffic calls, again, needing to boost those numbers. I come from an era where my father rode motors, and there was, I think, approximately 32 motors on the street at any given time. So that's a big increase back then, and we're down. So we need those numbers back up. Graffiti, well, we have graffiti abatement, 2 technicians that work out of our regional gang unit, as well as our graffiti detective. And they know all that information way better than I could speak about it, but knowing the monikers and all the information that's pushed out there just by the way people are displaying that information. Speeding, obviously, again, another traffic component. If we can get those motors and traffic units back up, they'll help combat that. And that's just not just with citations, but education as well. So I know I push my officers since I've had a big process through training over my years. I've been as a training officer as well as a training lieutenant. I've done training as a sergeant as well. So it's a big component of teaching individuals the components of traffic safety. And the request for additional patrol, that could be a multitude of things. involving our HOPE team, which is homeless outreach, to welfare checks, to a whole bunch of different occurrences, and then homeless concerns. Back in 2020, when I took over in our community action office, we started our homeless outreach team back then. It was not something that was very prevalent, and now we've developed into the HOPE team with help with Sparks and County. So that's been a big change. Dispatch calls for service. Again, you'll see changes between that and the reports that we take because it's the reports we receive from our dispatch agency versus the reports that we are mandated or need to take from our citizens. So the ones that dispatch receives, obviously EMS advisories, those could be anywhere from welfare checks to individuals on the street that are down to just going and checking somebody in their homes. Now, police would probably get those because we're a 24/7 operation. REMS is as well. We work very closely with our medical components in the community, including RFD, who now has medical. So we'll probably shift a lot of that over, but go and assist when we're needed. Traffic stops, we take those as very high level risk stops because we're going into an unknown. We get a lot more information when we get from dispatch, but traffic stops, complete unknown when we're going into them. Alarm calls, we're going through a refresh on that as we have in the past. We're redeveloping our alarm response to help better benefit the citizens and also response times. We get a lot of false alarms, so we're trying to combat those, determine what's actual an alarm so that we can respond to those first and then push off the false alarms and try and get people educated in repairing their systems. Area checks and attempt to locate, those two kind of checking areas, looking to see what's going on, might involve homeless, might involve individuals. It's a broad area there, but again, it kind of falls in the general area so that we have to respond to those. Now, the reports that we take, obviously based on legislature, domestic battery is a mandatory report. When we can determine that there's been domestic relation involved and there's been a crime that possibly has been committed, we have to take a report. So it's almost always our number one throughout the entire city. Destruction of property, we see that quite a bit because that involves either your low level or your high level. Window breaks, various different calls for service, all involve domestic property or destruction of property. Simple batteries, lower level than domestic because there may not be that relationship. We get a lot of fights downtown. We have a large population coming in with tourism, mixing with everybody involved in the city, and we want to keep everybody safe. So we get a lot of those calls for service, and we got to go check and see what's going on. Grand larceny of a motor vehicle. Again, this is always a traffic one that I like to say people need education on because we're in the warmer months. This side of it is people like cooling their cars off. Winter months, people like warming them up. So they leave their doors unlocked because they leave their cars running with the keys on. So that's, again, another big component that we need to educate people on. And then vehicle burglary, again, education, don't leave your stuff in your cars because people will take crimes of opportunity, looking through windows, whether it's a window break or an unlocked car, and they'll create those vehicle burglaries. So that's something we got to deal with. So let's see. Next one is questions and discussion.
This is more or less for each and every one of you and your constituents is trying to make these presentations a little bit more fruitful for the board and for the residents of Ward 6. Or what are your top community concerns? I know that those can change from ward to ward, district to district. So please let us know moving forward what those are so we can have a more responsive presentation for you. We understand that everybody's time is precious and we don't want to be giving you guys information that's not valuable for you to report back to your districts. Also, what type of community engagement or transparency from RPD would be the most helpful to you guys? I'm big in sharing data and making evidence-based practices and decisions. So I want to put all of that data forward facing through our website, through an annual report. But what are things that are important to each and every one of you that we can report on to make sure that we capture that full picture? And then additionally, what have you noticed? Any trends in your neighborhood that you think that we should be aware of? And I believe that is it for now. So stay connected. Obviously, if you're ever experiencing an emergency, we want you to call 911, not try to diffuse that. Non-emergency, so cold calls where you would like law enforcement to show up. The non-emergency number to dispatch, 334 COPS. Reno Direct for our service requests, speed campaigns, jaywalking, e-bikes, those types of issues, so we can track and make sure that we are responding to those timely through Reno Direct and our RPD website, Reno.pd.com. Obviously, we encourage everybody to follow us on Instagram and Reno Police Department because we really want to take an active role in what our officers are doing on the nightly and daily basis, and highlighting how technology is helping us solve crimes, how our men and women are out there answering the call day in and day out, and that community engagement piece. And we try to use it as a recruitment tool. There's what's the word I'm looking for? We went through, not specifically in Northern Nevada, but post George Floyd, post COVID, law enforcement took a black eye, and it was hard to find those individuals that wanted to jump into public service for a 25, 30-year career. And I want certain people that want to answer the call, and we have a certain reputation and standard to uphold, and we're not going to lower those standards. We use it as a recruitment tool to talk about what we are doing in our space, because we really do work for a very, very supportive city. We work for a supportive area, and I've been very blessed in my career to literally travel the nation and the world to see how law enforcement's done in different areas. And while some of my friends are higher ups in NYPD or Chicago or Louisville or LA, they do not deal with the support that we deal with in our community. We are overwhelmingly supported in this town, in this space, and it's very rewarding. And I can tell you that we see it every day, almost to the point where it starts to get embarrassing when people thank me for our service. I thank them for their support. And if you guys have any questions, we'd be happy to entertain a few.
Well, I was actually going to just thank you for your service, as well as your command staff and all of your officers. So if you could make sure that that gets communicated down. I do want to bring up a couple of points, Chief,
Please.
really quickly. I've been watching you closely. Your department, or the police department, the Reno Police Department, obviously took a big hit last year.
Sir.
If you were to ask me, when I'm out speaking with constituents or even conversing with just neighbors, the level of trust, it's not that you're not showing up. I don't hear that. It's the level of trust and the transparency is not there. So that's probably something you want to think about, where you want to put your focus. Now, I realize at the end of the day, we can't tell the public everything, but you are a public department. You are paid for ultimately by taxpayer dollars. And when you put yourself in the general public's shoes, they are going to want answers. So you need to think about ways that you can start rebuilding that trust. But I think you've done a great job, even coming here tonight. The other thing that you spoke about, which is kind of funny you brought it up because I wrote it down before you actually said it, was traffic enforcement. I drove up from South Reno on Virginia because it's just faster for me to get here coming up Virginia than it is to hop on the freeway, because the freeway always gets congested.
About 3 to 5:30. Yes, we know that well.
Yeah. I saw, no lie, and I'm not exaggerating, 7 cars with no plates at all. No plates whatsoever. I wasn't even looking for expired ones. So no plates, no movement tags. And they're just all over the city. And I hear that constantly. I can probably go walk the mall and find cars that are in violation. So that's something that I think all the residents would like to see. Also, the number of people that cut me off tonight, and I actually have a dash cam, and I'd be happy to grab that footage for you, was literally insane. Like, I thought my car was possibly invisible. So I think, yeah, you do need to work on that, and we need to get more feet on the ground there.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was something I had the fortune or misfortune, however you want to look at it, of working with Miss Sarah Collins down in Carson City for several years as the registered lobbyist for the Washington County Sheriff's Office to talk about public safety policies. This was one of the conversations we had of the unintended consequences of moving traffic from criminal to civil. You're seeing it right now. I can get cited 10 times over for not having my vehicle registered or carrying insurance
and nobody
on it,
cares.
versus having to pay those registration fees. So when we look at, and Lieutenant Uturbity hit to it briefly, when we pull somebody over and we have that interaction driver's side, it's triaged, if you will. Sometimes that pulling somebody over is all I need to do to change the driving behavior. Sometimes I need to write a ticket to change the behavior. And sometimes I need to make an arrest to do the behavior. And when we moved from one side of the aisle to the other, that took away some of our ability to change the driving behavior because those tickets got monetized, and $110 citation doesn't mean as much as potentially going to jail if I don't take care of those infractions. So what I will say is this: we are looking to be more aggressive at the state legislature next year to talk about some of those unintended consequences from AB 236 and some of the criminal justice reform, and moving some of those traffic from the criminal code to the civil code, because we're living it every day. And I know it gets frustrating for everybody else that is compliant. And there were some different reasons why we did it. But I think that there needs to be a more tiered approach to how we can enforce that and build up our traffic division and make sure that we are holding our weight regionally across the board, because it's not just the state police's job or the Department of Motor Vehicles' job to ensure that registered vehicles are out on the roadway and that they're insured. It's everybody's job.
It is. It truly is. It's funny you bring that up as well. I live in a community. I live over at the Enclave. I'm sure you know where that's at. And we have a very strict policy that any vehicle that's parked on property has to be tagged, insured, operable. We had a vehicle on the property, no lie, turned into twice before they finally were able to get it towed off. Had a temporary tag from 2024. If I drove for a day with an expired registration sticker, I would get a ticket. That's just my luck. I can imagine going 2 years. So, what's funny is we towed the vehicle and they went and they got it out of the impound and put it right back on the property. And then we towed it again. And so,
And the impound fee was probably more than any of their citations would have been.
you need teeth. So anything we can do to get you that teeth, let me know, because I will lobby for that. I will work for that. I will help you out with that.
I appreciate that.
And then for anybody who hasn't had a chance to visit the police station, it is absolutely a beautiful facility. I had the pleasure of visiting it with Board Member Newman. It is a gorgeous facility. It is very well maintained. I have no complaints about your police officers. Like I said, I think you guys do a great job as far as showing up. But I do think you have a lot of, I think the problem is that with the events that occurred last year, that trust eroded, and it's really easy to lose trust. It's very hard to gain it back.
Agreed.
So we might want to think about things we can do to get that trust back. The only other note I have is, and I really don't know if we do this. I don't see it advertised anywhere anymore or anything like that, but does anybody still do neighborhood watches?
We haven't specifically, but they're dependent upon the neighborhood to set together a group and
They are.
can always push out information.
I think that would be something we might want to think about. And I'm happy to sit down with you and brainstorm on that, or, sit down with you and Councilmember Anderson and brainstorm on that. And how we can get neighborhoods, because one, it brings neighborhoods together just for the fun of it. And two, you start getting people that are watching and they have a direct link to somebody that they can call and say, hey, something's happening that looks suspicious. So I think that might be something we want to reconsider.
I think that that's one of the things that you've seen where technology has taken the place of what we used to bring people together, and having those conversations about suspicious vehicles or persons after hours or whatever happened. Now with almost everybody with a Ring camera or similar type device, as you see those public advisories, and I'm sure like South Reno moms, they're very active on social media talking about specific teenage drivers or e-bikes or anything like that, or the different community forums down there for not just the gated communities, but the different developments have all of their social media. So I think that we've seen I would love for us to have a collaboration and discussion about how we can make that more effective. But yeah, I think we've seen that kind of transformation with the technology piece.
Just
where
reinvent it, yeah.
where they went away and now they're kind of concentrated in here. It's just like kids at the dinner table. They'd
Yeah.
rather text you, pass me the salt, than, to say the conversation. I think our communities have done that a little bit too.
So true, actually. All right, and that's all I have. Does anybody else have anything?
Yes, ma'am.
Congratulations on your new position.
Thank you very
It's
much.
good to see you there.
Good to see you.
So when is the January, when does that open for applications?
We're continuously recruiting. So one of the great things that we've done with civil service and with human resources is we don't close and do a traditional recruitment phase. We're continually open and testing. So as we get names, as we get certified lists, we're running people through the physical abilities test. We're offering the actual written test so we can get people and process them through the background. The background takes some time. Obviously, we go through a personal history statement. We go through drug use. We go through a polygraph examination or an equivalent lie detection type thing. We have to send you for a medical profile. We have to send you for a psychological profile, all before we get you squared away and ready for that academy. So it can take anywhere from 2 to 6 months just to get everybody into the queue to get them lined up for that academy that we run twice a year.
Okay. And then can you explain the impact panel, please?
How so? Like their mission, what they're doing, who they're comprised of. I have a list I can share with you of who's currently sitting on the impact panel, but what the idea behind it was to be an advisory to the chief and to the Reno Police Department on technical matters and what's happening in our space. So whether we're talking about immigration reform or we're talking about particular policies with respect to technology or critical hot topics and how we're working with the homelessness. What we kind of did is we geared it after working with our partners down in Carson City, where I got no greater praise than sitting in judiciary with then Chairman Yeager, now Speaker Yeager, and soon to be retired Yeager from the Nevada Assembly. And when we were bringing a whole coalition to the board, when you had the DA's office, law enforcement, public defenders, and the ACLU on the same page, we got good things done. Because while we might all be looking at it through a different lens, we made better policy, we made better positions, and we made better decisions based upon that. So that's the intent behind the impact panel, is to look at those critical topics that are facing our community and how do we address them, from opioid addiction to homelessness and everything in between.
Okay. And then as far as all of the traffic issues, I assume that you're working with all of the surrounding entities to tackle it head on, correct?
100%. So one of the things that I have to give credit where credit's due, it's our probationary lieutenant, Jacob Kincaid. When he just got promoted earlier this year, he brought a coalition of resources together to affect our street racers. And routinely, we'll see them down south. They like to use the Smith's parking lot to stage their vehicles. They like to use the old good guys, to date myself, or that area over there off of Keystone, I apologize, Kitski. And he saw a need when these people were gathering and taking over these businesses and creating nuisances all over the city. So he brought stakeholders together from the state police, from cities of Reno, Sparks, Washoe County, and the University Police Services, because there's even some buildings that University Police Services has throughout our city where they would stage in off of Moana or off of Mount Rose and do that. So we do have a wide spectrum. We've got a great partnership with our regional law enforcement partners right now, where you literally saw the heads of all of the organizations come up through the ranks together. So like Colonel Edgel was my track coach in high school, and he and I came up together. You know, Sheriff Balaam, his dad hired me and I worked for him on a SWAT team. Chief Crawforth and I worked in special operations together. So literally we're a phone call away, and we understand that we have to work regionally to address a lot of these problems. We can't tackle it just our department with our limited resources alone. And when we have a critical event and our resources get tied up, we'll routinely take over their priority one calls and vice versa. So we have to be able to do that. And we're continuing to do that across the board on multiple different disciplines.
Okay. And then lastly, unfortunately, the department has taken a hit. However, I see that you are taking the steps to address that. So the transparency that you were talking about, I very much appreciate. And kudos to you for recognizing the need.
It's a team effort, truly. Like I said, well, what have happened at the top happened, and we're dealing with that. Is that I want to reassure the public that that's on me, that's on my leadership, that's on our assistant chiefs and what we're trying to do and instill that culture. The men and women continue to do a great job on a daily basis, and they're the backbone of the department, and that's what needs to be recognized. And we will work that piece together. So point taken, sir. Thank you. And ma'am.
Julie Moreno Fritz for the record. I just wanted to thank you for such a great presentation. I thought it was super interesting, and I think it's great that you're trying to increase transparency. I think that's super important. I also wanted to thank you for your attention to the e-bike thing. I've noticed, especially as a Ward 6 member, just how unsafe I see some kids riding those bikes, and so I just appreciate your attention to that. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Alina Johnson for the record. A few comments. A brilliant presentation. I enjoyed it. So thank you. Lieutenant, is it Tom Uturbity? Did I say that right? And Chief Silverino, thank you guys so much for that presentation. I have a few comments. They're all good, I promise. My partner and I walk downtown a lot, and we see bicycle officers often, and we love them. And I know you know that we love them. So I want to give a shout out to them.
I owe them too, ma'am. I did tell them earlier in the year that I'd be riding with them. So I'm going to pick a couple of graveyard dates. I've got my utility uniform so I can actually get on a bike and not polyester and, split my pants. So we will be out there doing some enforcement.
Go get on those bikes. Yeah, it sounds fun. We love them. We run into them all the time and walk around with a dog. I'd also be interested in understanding some of the details behind the psychological testing for the Academy and service. You don't have to tell me all of that now. I know that they're really important and hopefully in depth. But I was wondering more or less what it entails. And mental health, especially in a field like this, is extremely important to me. So I was wondering what you got.
Well, I can tell you that after 27 years, I had to redo my psychological profile. So I answered the questions this time around a little bit differently than I did as a 21-year-old entering the profession. I think what we're looking for, and again, I would have to go and defer to the psychologist that's actually conducting the test, but they run the MMPI, make sure that we're psychologically sound, that we're not trying to game the system, so to speak. They're looking for predispositions to bias. Obviously, we don't need any of those individuals within the rank and file. No screening tool is perfect, but we're making sure that one of the questions I think that resonates with me the most is probably one of the most difficult is psychologically, can you deal with having to take a human life if you needed to save the life of another? And that one really hits home when they ask you that. And some people, religiously or otherwise, can't do that. And unfortunately, in our profession, you can't enter those ranks without willing to do that. And making sure that you understand the awesome responsibility in front of you and all of that quality control mechanisms that go in with that. So I'd be happy to give you more details offline about that, but understand that they're looking for somebody who's psychologically sound, that understands the power that's entrusted to them and isn't going to predominantly show any indication of misusing that on the front end. Because if we can limit that before they get started, that is a win.
It's good that we're doing that well in the front end. I actually worry more about, I'll just say it, your families, right? Like we go through a lot and we go home and we take it out. And that's something that people sometimes maybe don't talk about too much. Sometimes we talk about it too much or it's inappropriate. But I do worry about the impact that creates in the officers, of course, towards the public. But, we do take it out in our homes. And that's important to me to understand that we're making sure that we're taking care of everyone holistically.
I agree. And I think with our wellness initiatives and recent recipients of a federal appropriation for a wellness grant, Lieutenant Uturbity is part of that team to determine how we disseminate those resources, how we're using that money, because it's more than just one thing. There's some people that are okay to talk right after something happens. And there's some that need 4 months before they can talk about it. And there's some others who don't like talking about it to members within their own department or their own family. My poor kids, 30, 27, and 16, my wife's in law enforcement too. They got a very different family discussion at the dinner table than most families do because mom and dad are talking about different things. But my wife and I have a great relationship where she and I are able to process things because I am able to talk to her about it and she does understand it and vice versa. So I think that's really important, and every officer needs to be able to have that. And in fact, I was over at a summer barbecue just a few months ago talking to some spouses of officers, and we were talking about getting the Spouses Academy back because it is important for those who are on the outside looking in, how to be able to deal with your spouse after a critical incident, after a shift, and understand and respect. Sometimes they don't want to talk about it, but when they do want to talk about it, understanding what those mechanisms are to be able to have those discussions and understand when they're drowning and they need help before it becomes an issue. So all great things and all things that we're tackling with our wellness program as we continue to move it forward.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I had no idea Spouses Academy was a thing. Love that. I wanted to also say thank you for clarifying. This is a small thing. The jurisdiction of McCarran, a lot of us probably didn't know when you said that, hey, that's 4 different people, but also NHP. It means a lot to us when you paint it that way. And we start, a lot of us, we don't see what it takes to run a big department in a big system. And it's important to that you clarified that for us. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. And that's a great partnership, honestly, with Colonel Edgel. Major Munoz was up here. He's since moved down to Carson City. So Major LeBaker is the new major for the Nevada State Police. I always forget Nevada State Police, Nevada Highway Patrol. It's the same thing. They keep changing their name. But they are awesome community partners for it. And then you've obviously seen with our efforts on 4th Street, the sheriff's office being down on 4th Street. So we continue to try to tackle these programs regionally because we understand how frustrating it is for the public when you hear, motorcycles which appear to be, traveling at a high rate of speed or don't have restrictors or Borla exhaust on these street racing cars, and it just sounds like they're racing. We need to make that enforcement piece, and we need to make examples out of people. I know last Tuesday we did make a couple of reckless driving citations and towed some vehicles specifically on McCarran because we have redirected our focus to that because we've heard our community come to talk about it, and we've put our money where our mouth is.
I appreciate that. I see some big drones downtown. I presume you guys use drones. I know you can't tell me for sure it's you, but because we don't know. Well, we don't know. I can't tell you which one it was, right? It could have been somebody. But the big ones, I presume, are you guys have some drones patrolling, right?
We have 4 drones strategically placed throughout the city, one
Yeah.
on top of the Public Safety Center that you would see in the downtown space.
Yeah.
To do that on social media today, we released one of those drone footages from a stolen vehicle and apprehension of a suspect. Where the pursuit was terminated because the individual was driving into oncoming traffic, and we're able to maintain visual acuity with the drone and walk our officers in to make an arrest.
This is a great segue to tell you that I was able to successfully use Gemini AI to help me dial. I've been one of those people who didn't know which number to dial. And I was driving and I safely, with the help of my assistant, asked what is the correct number because someone was just driving egregiously. And Gemini helped me, and it's 334 cops. And so I dialed and I got the right person. I have dialed the wrong number before. We appreciate those efforts. I think they're really, honestly, just those efforts are hugely important. Just to get us to the proper channels is hugely important to not waste resources and to not make us frustrated too as consumers, right? The only last thing I had is, and this is the biggest one for me, I don't know if the group knows what the Mobile Outreach Safety Team is.
Oh, I think we
Most
might know it.
people, you might just know who they are, just a little bit. I've worked very closely with them before, from crisis centers, ERs, extremely disabled, mentally disabled youth that were violent. Those guys and girls are amazing. I remember their faces. They talk, they recognize me. They say hi. It's not great when they recognize you. They say hi to me in the ER when we pass each other. I still work in a hospital with nurses. They are consistently incredible, and they're kind of really good psychologists too. They're very good with patients. Can't say enough good things about them.
Christy Butler and her team with
Yeah.
the Reno Police Department,
Christy.
Larissa Renner up at Washoe County and her team. It's truly, I did not realize how valuable they were until we integrated them into our departments. And now I can't imagine doing law enforcement without them.
Yeah, thank you so much they're amazing. Good job. I appreciate you both. Thank you guys.
Yes, of course, I am. Chief, hi, nice seeing you again since I met you
Seeing you, sir.
on the 4th of July. I invited you to the Ward 6 meeting, and
Here we are.
30 days, you're here. All right. Right after meeting you, I went to my car, and behind my car was 2 bicycle officers, and told them, hey, I just met the chief. And they looked at me like, okay, and they turned out to be pretty funny guys, actually. I've got one invitation for you and 3 questions.
Yes, sir.
Since we had the general meeting for the Double Diamond Ranch Master Homeowner Association last week, and I told them my new best friend was the chief of police, and they said, how nice. And they are having a family day in the association sometime in September, and the board has directed me to invite you and Councilman Anderson to come to the family meeting. It's at an undisclosed date yet. They haven't decided, but you are invited to come down and meet that homeowner association. and get 2 free hot dogs and some ice cream from Sonic, because that's our manager, is the accountant.
Let me know. September's a good month, so if I
Yep,
can calendar it,
September's a
I'll
good
make sure I'm
month,
there.
okay? Reach out to me. 3 questions. How did the recent Ollie tour of the police station go?
Ollie tour. I'm not sure what that is.
Osher Lifelong Learning Institute? Guess you didn't know about that one, all right?
I did not, sir.
There's a tour a
Apologize.
couple weeks ago for old people. All right, moving on to the third one. Talking about the Sparks Police Department and the Sheriff's Department. Sheriff Balaam is hot to consolidate the departments. How do you feel about that?
I think like I talked about earlier, regionally, we're stronger together than we are apart. Whether that means a full-scale consolidation or means more regional partnerships, I don't know what that looks like. What I've told my people and what I've told the unions and everybody else is that it has to enhance the current footprint or level of service that we have. It has to make financial sense for all of the participants involved, and it has to provide something in it for our department as far as leadership, education, diversity, scope of work, and the customer, the constituents of where we're sitting right now.
Because I'm seeing it already started with the fire departments.
Well, I mean, this is the fifth
City of
iteration.
Reno Fire Chief is
Just in
now.
this is the fifth iteration in my career. When Sheriff Kirkland, when he was chief of police, there used to be 3 uniforms that were in briefing in 1999 when you walked in for the consolidated uniform. I know there were additional conversations that happened moving forward with when Lieutenant Bowen was running for sheriff and Sheriff Balaam's father, Sheriff Balaam, senior. No, not senior. He was Dennis Balaam, not Darren Balaam. And then Chief Pitts and Sheriff Haley looked at it in 2008, and then the recession happened. So this is the 4th or 5th time, literally, in my 27-year career that we're here looking at it. I think that regionally, it makes sense. Whether the whole consolidation piece does, I think that's to be determined. We have to determine what it looks like financially. We have to determine what it looks like structurally, and we have to determine whether it enhances that level of service for the city.
Thank you. And my last question is, how many officers do you still have on administrative leave
For
anything?
I don't have any. Well, I've got several officers that are in different stages. I'd have to look for you for administrative leave for anything specific.
The 2 deputy chiefs from last year's debacle.
The deputy chiefs were.
Well, the deputy chiefs, and then there were some unknown administrative officers
Correct.
that were on it. Are they still on administrative leave?
I don't have any officers on administrative leave.
Thank you.
Brad Conway for the record. Chief, I do have one more question for you. Actually, this came up a few weeks ago when I was talking to somebody. Nevada started the See It, Spot It, Report It program.
Say that again, sir.
The See It, Spot It, Report It through Nevada DMV.
Okay.
For expired tags or no tags. And I know they got bombarded with like 25,000 reports initially. Is anybody doing anything about those?
That was a major push through DMV, so through a state program. Where it's at right now, I haven't seen. I know that.
Because they
yes,
kind of need to get with you, would be my thought.
I'll have to take a seat.
I don't know where that program is, but yes, you are correct. I don't know the exact number of how many initial complaints they got, but I think they shut the system down
They did.
because they got so many complaints that they couldn't follow up on.
And I would think that would be something they would need to coordinate with local law enforcement on.
That's another part of that regionalization of working together and communicating
Exactly.
before doing something.
So that's just something I wanted to throw out there. But that's all I have. Other than that, great presentation. Guys, you are always welcome here. You're always welcome to come down.
Thank you very much.
We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I'll push one thing. Next Wednesday, August 12th, in front of the courthouse, we're celebrating the 250.
That's right.
Chief's gonna speak. You're gonna see all the components of Reno PD out there.
All right.
So, including horse mounted, which is the #1 there. Sorry, Chief.
No, you're good. We love our horses.
Bring
Thank
it.
you very much.
Thank you, guys. Okay. Moving right along, item C2, we have Regional Transportation Commission.
Good evening. Always good to be here. Thanks for having me again. I've got kind of a 2-part presentation
State your
today.
name for the record.
Oh, sorry. My name is Paul Nelson, Government Affairs Officer for RTC. I have a 2-part presentation. The first one will be about an advisory question that you'll see on the during the November election, and then also what's happening in Ward 6 as it pertains to transportation. There we go. So first off, the EV fee, this is informational. So as the RTC, we don't support or oppose this ballot advisory question. We're just here to educate people on why it's happening, how we ended up getting here, and what it actually does. So this is what the question will be on the November ballot. Do you support an annual road fee on an electric and hybrid passenger vehicles registered in Washoe County, which would be adjusted annually for inflation? These fees are intended to approximate the annual contribution that owners of gasoline-powered vehicles pay per year in local fuel taxes to support local transportation infrastructure. The revenue from these fees would be dedicated to the regional transportation of Washoe County, subject to annual audits and public disclosure of spending, and the revenue would be used solely for the funding of transportation projects that will reduce traffic congestion, repair and maintain roads, improve air quality, and increase safety. All right, that was a lot, but you get the gist. So how our roads are funded today is when you go to the gas station, you pump your gas, a percentage of that, not a percentage, but a flat fee per gallon goes to our roads. You've got the local fuel tax, you got the state, and you've got the federal. So that all goes to major road construction, pavement preservation, and safety improvements. In the last 5 years, we've invested more than $420 million into our regional roads here in the Truckee Meadows. Also, if you look at that bottom thing, $4.6 billion are needed over the next 24 years for 107 non-freeway projects. So obviously, we've got a lot of projects, and it's going to take a lot of funding to do that. Local fuel tax investments, just over the past several years, you can see these projects that we've recently concluded. Arlington Avenue Bridges, most recently. That was a $41 million project. I hope you've all had a chance to go down and see the Arlington Bridges. They turned out great. Southeast Connector, $276 million project. We actually did borrow money to build that, so we are paying debt on that project still. Mill Street Capacity and Safety, Sparks Boulevard Capacity Improvement is actually underway right now. And then the Meadowood Mall rehabilitation that happened last year. Pavement preservation is a really important program that we have that's keeping our good roads good. Annually, we treat between 150 to 200 lane miles of pavement, or 2.2 to 4.9 million square yards. That's more than enough to cover about 1,000 football fields. The annual investment on that is about $51,000 per lane mile, or $2.80 per square yard. So it's a very efficient and inexpensive way to keep our good roads good. So the challenge is that revenue is no longer keeping pace with our system needs. So the growing funding gap, estimated $1.4 billion shortfall over the next 10 years for road maintenance. That's driven by rising construction costs, aging infrastructure, and changing fuel consumption patterns. And if you look at the bottom there, inflation has outpaced the producer price index by 110% between 2016 and 2025. So despite our fuel tax indexing, we still aren't quite keeping up with inflation. We have some unfunded projects that we have coming up here. Vista Boulevard over in Sparks, $25 million. West 4th Street in Sparks. Cold Springs to Red Rock Connector and the Pyramid Way Phase 5 widening. All of these have some price tags. We have to find out how we're going to accomplish that. So I'm going to show you some of the trends that we're seeing. If you look at 2020 till 2024, the amount of miles traveled per person in Washoe County is going up. People are driving more miles than they ever have before. 2020 was kind of an anomaly because a lot of people were working from home, staying home during COVID, but you've seen it rise quite a bit since then. We're, as a region, more than 4 billion miles traveled per vehicle, or total. At the same time, taxable gallons sold has been dropping. So back in 2019, almost $184 million, or 184 million gallons of fuel were sold. And if you look at 2024, that's down below $174 million. So people are driving more than they ever have before, but they're purchasing less fuel than they ever have before. And a big reason for that is because cars are more fuel efficient nowadays. People are buying EVs, people are buying hybrids. So when you look at the amount of EVs and hybrids, just the growth that we're seeing since 2020, if you look at the hybrids in the purple, about 6,300 registered hybrids in Washoe County. today, or actually last year in June, 16,462. When you look at the electric vehicles in 2020, about 1,500 registered in Washoe County. That's up to almost 10,500 as of a year ago. So we're still waiting on the DMV's numbers for 2026, but you can see 562% increase in electric vehicles, 159% increase in hybrid vehicles. So when you look at about 6% of the overall fleet in Washoe County is either EV or hybrid. So EVs, they don't pay fuel tax. Hybrids pay a lot less fuel tax in general. So when you add all that up between 2020 and 2025, if the EVs and hybrids were paying fuel tax, it would amount to about $15.5 million that we would have to put back into our roads. So the Gwynn Center a couple of years ago did the Bridging the Gap study to find out what is the right way to go about finding a fee or a tax for electric vehicles. They looked at an additional registration fee, which is similar to how 39 other states already do it. It's the easiest and the fastest way to implement it, where you go, you register your vehicle, you pay an additional fee. That money goes directly to the local governments or agencies to put directly into the roads. The other one is vehicle miles traveled, VMT tax. This is basically you pay as you go. So if you drive 20,000 miles in 1 year, you're going to pay for the 20,000 miles that you drove, versus if you drove 5,000 miles, you're going to pay for the 5,000 miles. The problem with that is it's hard to implement, and it takes a while, and it's expensive to implement. The other one they looked at is the electric charging station per kilowatt hours. That's the problem with that is most people charge their vehicles at home, not at charging stations. Some of the states that have implemented this haven't seen a lot of return on their investment. So looking here, this shows you kind of in a chart, the scoring system. When they looked at these three, the top ranked was the registration fee, the speed of implementation, equity, and the cost of implementation. The revenue generation and environmental effects were both higher on the VMT, and the kilowatt hours scored the lowest. So when you look at this map, it shows that Nevada is one of 9 states that currently does not have some form of an EV fee or a tax in place. Those are different depending on the states you go. Some of them is a flat fee for registration. Some of them is a vehicle miles traveled. Utah has a hybrid where you can either pay a registration fee and you can drive as far as you want, or you can pay per mile that you drive. You can see also there on the right, the gray states there, no additional fee. The ones that do have fees, it ranges anywhere from $50 a year to $250 a year. So after the Gwynn Center did their study, FM3 went out and did some market research to find out what potential voters think about the idea of implementing some sort of a fee here in Washoe County for electric vehicles and hybrids. You can see overwhelmingly, well, I shouldn't say overwhelmingly, about 61% of people say yes, there should be a fee for those. Electric vehicles, they said $250. For hybrids, it would be half of that price, so $125. And that money would all go towards transportation projects. During that poll, they also asked EV hybrid owners and people who likely will buy an EV or a hybrid over the next couple of years what they thought about it. And it was similar results. People that own hybrids or EVs, 58%. And then if you look at the people that said that they probably will buy one, it was 61%. So even people that are driving these vehicles seem to support it. We also polled about whether or not these annual fees should be indexed to try to keep up with inflation, just like our fuel taxes are. July 1st, our fuel taxes just went up another, I don't remember what it was, 6 cents, 8 cents, something like that total. And that's based on the producer price index over 10 years. This would be similar. You can see that 60% of them also favor indexing for a registration fee. So several months ago, some world events happened with the war in Iran, and we saw gas prices go up. So we decided in May, let's go out, have FM3 do another set of market research, find out if people's opinions have changed because of the price of fuel. And our results came back very similar. 60% said yes, there should be a fee. So poll respondents that are in favor of this, they say the reason is, well, if 94% of the population that drives on our roads are paying fuel taxes, so they're helping to maintain and build our roads, the other 6% should. So they say they should be paying their fair share as the primary reason why they would vote yes. On the other side of the coin, we've got people that are concerned, say they would not vote for it because there is some mistrust on money management, and they do think that there is a possibility that it would discourage people from buying an electric vehicle or a hybrid. So just from where we started to where we are now, back in 2021, the legislature created an advisory working group. That advisory working group met, they came up with some policy changes that they think would be worthwhile. They came out with the Nevada Sustainable Transportation Study. Then NCE did a maintenance needs study. In 2024, the Gwynn Center did the Bridging the Gap study where they identified which process would be the best. And then last year, and then just a few months ago, FM3 did polling of likely Washoe County voters. They brought that to our board, and then the board sent that up to the Washoe County Board of Commissioners. They voted to put an advisory question on the November ballot. So why this matters to Washoe County is because stable funding is what supports our road network. Pavement preservation to keep our good roads good, reducing crashes to make the roads safer in key locations, and then we're a growing community. We're seeing more congestion. We're gonna have to adapt our road network to adapt to that congestion to create less delay and better mobility. So again, here's the ballot question that you'll see on the November ballot. Again, we aren't supporting it or opposing it. That's up to all of you and I guess all of us. And we'll see how it all turns out. This would not be a binding question. It's advising the legislature. So if it passes, it doesn't mean that there's going to be a registration fee for EVs and hybrids. It just tells the legislature Washoe County wants this to happen or doesn't want it to happen. Moving on now, one of the ways that we do pay for the growth that I was talking about is development. Every time a developer comes in and they build a house or a commercial building, there is a fee on top of that that pays for road capacity that is created because of that housing development or commercial development. I did have some questions at a few of these presentations that I gave. If you look at the north and south, so north of I-80, for a single family house, they pay a little bit more up there in the North Valleys, Spanish Springs area than they do in South Reno. But when it comes to commercial businesses, it's based on, let's say you decide to build a fast food restaurant somewhere. You're not going to be taxed the same. The fee won't be the same as if you're building a house. It's based on the vehicles or the traffic that you're generating, or like, let's say a grocery store. A grocery store is going to generate a lot more traffic than a fast food restaurant would. So that's how they come up with the funding or the fee for some of the different commercial buildings. One of the things that RTC does as the MPO is we do the metropolitan planning. And one of the things that we're really looking at, we just started this about a year ago, is our neighborhood network plans. This comes out of the regional transportation plan, where we divided the neighborhood or the communities, Reno, Sparks, Washoe County, we divided it up in 12 neighborhoods, and we're going 2 neighborhoods each year. We're studying them to find out better ways that we can make it easier for people to walk or bike. We've already done the studies for number 9 and 7, so Central Reno, Central Sparks. We plan on implementing some of those in the next year or so, probably in the spring. Right now, we're studying number 10 right there, so the Meadowood, Hidden Valley area, and also number 2, which is Sun Valley, Panther Valley areas. These are the treatment types. There's bulb outs just to make pedestrians more visible as they're going into the crosswalks. You've also got the pedestrian refuge in the middle there where you can walk across a busy street halfway and then wait for the traffic to clear before crossing the rest of the way. Little makeshift roundabouts, and then various ways of making bike lanes safer. Public transportation. So we've got a lot of different programs. RTC Ride is our fixed route service. We've got 20 routes. We've seen substantial growth over the last few years. At one point, we had 41 straight months of ridership growth. It dipped a little bit in January, but we're back on that trajectory again. RTC Flex Ride, that is the 4 zones. One of them is in South Reno where we just don't have enough demand for a fixed route. So we've got the Flex Ride, the smaller buses where it's our version of Uber or Lyft, where you can call, they can come and take you anywhere within that zone or drop you off at a bus stop so you can move on. RTC Access or paratransit. RTC Vanpool is our carpooling service, which is still top 10 in the country because we've got so many people that commute mainly to the Tri-Center, but also Carson City, Lake Tahoe, Truckee, Susanville, and places like that. Other services we have, RTC Smart Trips, basically traveling anywhere except driving by yourself. So smart trips, trying to reduce traffic and congestion and pollution. Washoe Senior Ride, anyone over 65 years old, a veteran of any age, or a person with a disability of any age can apply for this. And it's a card that you'll get $60 auto-loaded on every month where you can use that $60 for an Uber, Lyft, or a taxi. And then we also have a mobility center over at Centennial Plaza in Sparks, which really just helps people with disabilities learn how to navigate if they have a wheelchair or something like that, how to get on and off a bus. And then RTC owns the buses, but we don't operate them. We hire Keolis to operate the ride system. We hire MTM to operate Access and Flex Ride. We're also really focusing on our future riders. We have the EdPass program for the 4 colleges in Northern Nevada. So University of Nevada, Truckee Meadows Community College, Desert Research Institute, and Western Nevada College. Anyone that works there or goes to school there can ride for free. Youth Ride Free is a project that we just started. It was a pilot program that we started a year ago, and we saw a lot of success with it. About 8,000 Washoe County School District kids signed up for the program. The reason we did it was because Washoe County School District thought that transportation might be one of the reasons why they're seeing so many people absent or tardy for school. So we partnered with them, and we expected that we would see a lot of kids using it to go to school and using it for extracurricular activities like sports or band or choir or things like that. But what we actually saw the most of was that kids are using this to get to work after school. And we've seen that some of the areas where they're most using it, Wooster High School is the top school where we're seeing people use it, followed by, I think it's Sparks High School, then Hug, and then Reno High School. So it's been very beneficial. They don't have to use it for school. They can use it for whatever they need to. As long as they've signed up for it, they can use it to go shopping or go to their grandma's house or whatever they want. Engineering. So we've got quite a few projects. Not as many projects in Ward 6 as we do in some of the other neighborhoods because there's a lot of newer neighborhoods that we don't really have to touch quite yet. But you've probably seen some projects just in the last couple of years that we've finished up. I mentioned the pavement preservation program. Anyone that's driven on Steamboat Veterans lately has probably seen the slurry seal that's been put down. That's one of our projects. And that's really just to extend the life of the roadway. That's an example. Those pictures right there on Sparks Boulevard is an example of what we do there. It's patching, crack sealing, and then a slurry seal. And that's what's happening on Veterans Parkway right now. Completed projects. I mentioned Meadowood Circle, the Meadowood Mall Way, Meadowood Mall Circle, and Neil Way. Very small roads, but this was a rehabilitation where it was a full depth reconstruction of those roadways. And we finished that one last year. We also finished the Veterans Roundabout last year, which anyone that drives that probably has noticed a pretty good improvement when it comes to navigating it. I think having that slip lane to go to Geiger Grade Road and also having the markings on the pavement to let people know which lane they need to be in really helps people get around that roundabout. And I think we're seeing a lot less delays because of that slip lane. We finished up Arrow Creek Parkway and Wedge Parkway last year. This was another one of those full depth reconstructions. You can see that picture on the right side there. It also included a multi-use path along Wedge Parkway. So when we do these projects, we don't just, it's a pavement rehabilitation project, but we don't just do the pavement. We look at the corridor, find out how we can make it safer for everyone. That might be sidewalks, that might be bike lanes, might be multi-use paths. Coming up now, actually this one's underway. The Virginia Line BRT improvements. I don't know if any of you have driven by some of those older BRT stations, but they've been jackhammering away those platforms like you see on the middle picture there, because the buses we use now are smaller than the ones that we built the platforms for. We're bringing those platforms down farther so that people can board the bus without the tripping hazards. People in wheelchairs can board the bus on that ramp. We're replacing those mini BRT stations with full-size BRT stations, and then there's going to be a bus-only lane between Peckham and Plum. Project that's coming up next year is Steamboat and Rio Wrangler Roundabout. So we did a whole corridor study between Steamboat Parkway and Western Skies to look at how we can improve the flow of traffic in that area. Obviously, Demonte Ranch High School is right there. We see a lot of congestion during the morning hours and the evening hours. One of the things that we will be doing next summer is putting that roundabout at Rio Wrangler and Steamboat. And you can see that the way it's configured, if you're going south to west or east to south, there's a slip lane, so you don't even have to enter the roundabout. Right now, this is a four-way stop sign. We're thinking that this will keep traffic flowing and hopefully we won't see the backups that we see right now during the mornings and evenings. Another one next year is on Butch Cassidy Drive. This is down by Galena High School. Right now, there's only one way in and out from Mount Rose Highway. So there's a couple things there. Left-hand turns are the most dangerous turns that people can make while they are on the roads. So if you're turning left on a Mount Rose Highway, or if you're turning left into that housing development, that's the most dangerous way to get there. So that bottom picture where you see the red signs on the back there, that road will extend and turn right in front of that mountain. It'll connect at Thomas Creek Road. So there will be a traffic signal to allow people to get in and out of that development. It's also good because this area is prone to wildfires. So having two exits from that neighborhood is also good if there's evacuations. And in the future, down the road, this is another project that we've got, is realigning Geiger Grade, taking some of that traffic away from that roundabout that we just built last year. This one, we're still quite a ways out. It's expensive. There would require a lot of environmental because it does go across the Steamboat Creek. But it came out of the South Meadows Multimodal Transportation Study, the Mount Rose Corridor Study. This would take Geiger Grade and align it on US 395 a little bit farther south in that intersection at Summit Mall right now. And then I talked to everyone about this. We actually just got our final draft of the Northeast Connector study. I know it's not Ward 6, but there's a lot of people in Ward 6 that work out at the Tri-Center. And anyone that works out there deals with traffic on a daily basis. NDOT is widening Interstate 80 here in the next few years from 4 lanes to 6 lanes. This would, after doing the alignment study and the feasibility study, the two routes that came out on top would be connecting USA Parkway to Wingfield Springs or Spanish Springs, either on Vista Boulevard or La Posada. When you look at the two at the bottom there, Vista Boulevard, connecting that right there at Eagle Canyon Park where the softball fields are, approximately $275 million. When you look at the La Posada route, there's a lot more elevation change, a lot more bridges, a lot more earthwork, and it would be $451 million. What we're looking at is by building this road, it would give people an alternate route, take people off Interstate 80, and make it a lot easier for people to get to and from work, take some of that congestion away from that commute. And it would be about 4,500 cars using that roadway, which is almost 10% of the daily traffic that we see on that stretch of Interstate 80. This is unfunded right now. The project's an idea. There's a lot of federal land that we would have to go through. We'd have to get an easement. There are some tribal archaeological things up there. So there's a lot of things that have to happen before this would move forward, including the environmental process. The other thing we looked at was a commuter rail study. And this one is, we're still looking at it. This would connect a station in Reno and in Sparks and take this out to Tesla. It's a very expensive project if we do get it. We also have to talk to the state legislature to find out who would have the authority to operate a rail to take people out there. But if for the short term, it would cost, I'm blanking on what the price would be, but it would be, I think, around $200 million to get it up and running. And it would have about 4,000 or 5,000 passengers on it per day. But by year 3, if we did all of the improvements that would be required, double tracking, it's Union Pacific's line, we would have to get permission to operate a train on it. So we'd have to double track in some areas, build stations, build a maintenance yard. So that would be a heavy lift. It would cost about $1.2 billion to do all that. But if it did happen, the projections are about 16,000 people would be riding that every day. That takes a lot of traffic off of Interstate 80. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Brad Conway for the record. Mr. Nelson, thank you for being here again. I appreciate it. It's good to see you. I don't really have anything. Just a couple of very quick notes. I don't want to start a debate on the board, but on the EV fees, if you are speaking to constituents, that is not environmental. I have a neighbor that drives a Tesla. He's in the garage right next to me, and he is so opposed to EV fees. And we had a kind of spirited conversation about why he should get to use roadways for free, and I should have to pay whenever time I fill up my car with gas. So that is definitely not environmental. It is for EVs using roads and to get money back into their budget for the use of the roads. The bus only lanes, I've heard nothing but good things about. In fact, I was coming up South Virginia today, and I noticed one of the bus only lanes, and it's really nice. You mentioned left-hand turns, especially the one down by Mount Rose, and I think we've had a few accidents down there recently. So anything we can do to improve that is a win. And other than that, I don't have anything. I think you're doing a great job. I still want to get with you regarding, I think we talked at one point regarding moving the parking on Offenhauser from one side to the other.
Possibly.
And if not, we did talk about that. Do you remember that conversation?
No.
Okay. Might not have been you I spoke to then. I need to speak to somebody at RTC about moving, and it's on the wrong side of the street. Everybody that parks on Offenhauser is parking on Offenhauser and walking across the street, and it is a huge safety hazard. So when you guys, I know that you guys are working on the budget to strip the street and restripe it. When that happens, we need to move the parking to the right side of the road. Because it's just a matter of time, and I hate to use this phrase, somebody's going to get injured. Because the only people that park on that are the people that live at the verge across the street. So that's all I have.
Going back to the Mount Rose, the left-hand turns, I will point out that NDOT, there was a study on the Mount Rose Highway. We recently applied for a federal grant that would put some roundabouts in a couple of locations down there to eliminate those left-hand turns. I'm forgetting what the two streets are, but it's farther up. It's farther west of where Thomas Creek is. But it would remove some of those left-hand conflicts that we see.
I appreciate the work you do. I mean, it's a no-win situation. You are in a position where you're never going to make everybody happy. But I think you guys do a great job. The fact that I can get from South Reno to City Hall in 20-25 minutes. I drive like a grandmother, to be honest with you. I'm very non-aggressive when I drive. I do that coming up Virginia. There's something to be said for that. Obviously, at some point we're going to, you were looking at it. You're looking at the congestion on our freeways. The freeways are getting over congested right now. And we just don't really have any room to put more freeways. We're going to have to take people's houses. And I've lived in a city where that happened. And they took houses and they took them on eminent domain. And that was not popular. So I love everything that you're doing right now.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Me. I got lots of questions. Okay, so as far as the ballot question, do you know if Southern RTC is also posing that to their constituents?
I do not know. We have had conversations with RTC of Southern Nevada. They are definitely interested in something like that. The difference is that RTC of Southern Nevada don't operate the same as us. Where we do, they are also the MPO and they operate the transit, where we also do the engineering and construction. With them, they take the funding for the roads and they give it to the jurisdictions. So there is a difference on how we operate.
Okay. Second, which Is the RTC leaning towards as far as the fee structure?
We were just going off of the Gwynn Center, and the Gwynn Center said that the best option would be a registration fee. And the reason that the vehicle miles traveled model is harder to do, which I actually had someone ask me a question once. She said she owns 4 electric vehicles. One of them, she's driven about 500 miles. The other one, she drives a lot more. She doesn't want to pay, $250 or whatever the fee would be for all 4 of those vehicles. That's why she would prefer a vehicle miles traveled. What the Gwynn Center found was that in order to put that technology in, because right now there's already a structure in place for a registration fee, it would be expensive to put that technology in to charge a vehicle miles traveled. It would also take a few years to put it in. And so there's a lot of hurdles with that. And that's one of the main reasons. There's also a lot of mistrust from some people that, in some states, they've got like where your car automatically would give that data. In Nevada, more than likely, we would have to report the mileage like we already do. But there is some mistrust. A lot of people don't like the idea of the government knowing where they're driving or how far they've driven. So there are some challenges with that one.
Okay. The reason why I asked is because I know the legislature has been constantly having this conversation, and majority of conversations are doing the VMT structure. I also know, coming from the rural areas, that is a huge disparity for them because they'll be paying more. Granted, I know right now it's just Washoe County, but it will probably be implemented at the entire state level. So that's why I was asking that. Now sorry guys, I'm gonna shoot myself in the foot because I live in Washoe County, but I commute to Carson and I commute to Story County, and I fill up there because the fuel tax is so much cheaper. Have there been conversations about increasing the fuel tax there?
I think Carson City had a discussion about it, or a ballot question about a year ago that failed. It depends on where you live. Some people, they don't want to pay extra. I mean, when you see $4 gallon gas and then you're paying, 10 cents a gallon more versus $1 more, a lot of people don't want to do that. So it all just depends on, where you live. We have heard about people saying that they would rather gas up when they're in Carson City. My dad even mentioned, hey, I'm going to start driving to Carson City. It's like, no, you're not. It takes too much time and you're going to burn all the gas that you save anyway. So, but if you're commuting there, a lot of people do the same thing. So
Brad Conway, for the record, I want to point something out on that fuel tax. That was a ballot question. I don't remember what year it was, but we voted on that. We voted to have that increase. Is it annually that we voted for that?
every July 1st, it is, and
it was only for 10 years.
Yeah, it was 2008 is when Washoe County voters said, yeah, we should index the fuel tax for inflation, and then the legislature passed it and allowed Washoe County.
So we should see a reprieve. Well, the tax won't go down, but we're not going to see the increase every year.
We see an increase every year.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Also, with the Utah model, do you think that's applicable here in Nevada if we do the VMT with the option to do the registration for EVs?
I mean, when you look at, that's a nice thing. We don't have to reinvent the wheel if we do something like this. So our state lawmakers could look at what Utah's doing. They could look at what Oregon, Washington, Virginia, we could look at, the legislators are the ones that are going to make this decision. So they can look at the different models that other states have done. Like I said, we're one of 9 states that don't have something like this in place.
Okay. And then as far as the 80 road work, do we have a rough time frame of when that road construction is going to take place?
I'm not positive, but I think it starts in 2028 and it would go till 2031.
Okay. Second, are we also going to be doing road construction on those alternate routes to where everyone has to take 80? Can
you repeat that?
So, there was road construction on one of the alternate routes to hit USA Parkway. Unfortunately, it backed up everyone on 80. Yes, I make that travel. And so let's not do construction on those alternate routes at the same time we're doing construction on 80 would be my suggestion. Please and thank you.
So that's the Patrick
Yep.
on-ramp that they're working on right now.
Yeah,
I've
it's
got a
fun.
friend that works out there that lives up off Los Altos and Sparks. He said it's faster to drive up to Pyramid Lake and down through Wadsworth.
He's
than
not
to
wrong.
take, Interstate 80. And we're putting all these options on the table. You know, we know NDOT's doing their thing. We're looking at the Northeast Connector. We're looking at commuter rail. Ideally, in a perfect world, we could build Northeast Connector before construction starts on Interstate 80 because we all know how construction is going to affect that freeway. Whether or not that could happen, I mean, there's a lot of hurdles, especially the price tag. Where are we going to get the funding for it? It would definitely take some federal funding, possibly an infra or a mega grant, something upwards of $100 million, possibly public-private money. So, and that goes along with getting the easement or a lands bill. So there's a lot of things that have to happen still.
Let me know how I can help. I want to alleviate 80 because I drive it. And then secondly, so you said the rail system. Is it specific for Tesla? Because it's more than just Tesla out there. So it is not.
It's not specific to Tesla, but the terminus eventually would be at Tesla. So there would be a stop. The way the drive, or I should say the plans are drawn up right now, there would likely be a stop just to the west of USA Parkway. There would be an overpass too, overpass or underpass, so that it wouldn't be at grade with USA Parkway. So it wouldn't be bottling up traffic either. The reason that the terminus would be at Tesla is because that's where the majority of the people would be working, but also it would serve two purposes. Union Pacific isn't going to let us use their rail unless there's something in it for them.
Correct.
Because if we're going to be taking away their capacity and adding to their liability, there's got to be something in it for them. If they can run a rail all the way up to Tesla, Tesla could also use that for freight. So they could be putting some of their materials on the trains as well as commuting passengers. So there would be a couple of stops, one of them right there to the east of USA Parkway, and then at Tesla. Once they would get there, there's that first and last mile that they would also have to deal with.
Okay, that's all.
Hi, Alina Johnson for the record. I was wondering if there's any efforts for just carpool in general, just as friends, as neighbors, right? Like, do you have maybe pamphlets or education? Or obviously I like all the carpooling options and ideas, anything but just by yourself. Also, it would behoove me because I would have just a victim who I can talk at a speed rate for like an hour and a half or whenever I'm going somewhere, just like, you just have to listen to me. But what would be the ideas for carpooling with just a community member?
Yeah, I mean, if you go to RTC Smart Trips, there are all kinds of different options when it comes to that carpooling, riding the bus, riding your bike, walking, the old school way of transportation. So, yeah, if you want to do carpooling, I guess you just talk to your neighbors or somebody that lives nearby and start that. If you want to do the van pool, I think I've explained to you guys how the van pool works in the past, so I don't want to get into the weeds about it, but there are subsidies for this lease that would make it a lot more affordable for the person that's driving it.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be 5 to 15 passengers, depending on the vehicle you get.
Yeah, I'm all for carpooling.
And it took 20 million miles traveled off the roads last year.
Yeah, I love that. I love these numbers. I think these numbers are really important to share with the public. And of course, we're all also watching our wallets, right? The only other thing I had, speaking of money, is I appreciate the transparency regarding the real life costs of widening lanes, including government land, possible reservation land. So I really appreciate that transparency of reminding us of there's more costs other than just money. I just appreciated that. Thank you.
Tyler Hinman for the record. So when talking about the EV fees, obviously there's a lot of debate on it. I have been speaking with a lot of people who share their different views on it. Obviously, I think that the most popular option would just be to add it to your car registration fees. But I do know a lot of people that are questioning, say, like the miles driven portion of it, like how exactly that would be implemented. One question that they're confused on, because I know this is something that California has floated. I don't know whether or not they actually implemented that or not. But say like you drove 20,000 miles throughout the year, but say like 1,000 of those miles were driven in like Idaho or California, like would they still be charged for those 1,000 miles, or is it going to have to be like, oh, when we do our taxes, we'll have to have that $1,000 deduction?
Yeah, and if it's just a self-reporting system like we do right now when we register our vehicles, nobody knows where you drove that. You know, you could have driven across the country and most of those miles might be out of state. The only way to track that accurately would be as if there is technology in the car that would give that data to the DMV,
Which a lot of people would
which
not
a lot of people are
like.
opposed to.
And I know a lot of it goes towards, not trusting government officials with managing money or anything. And a lot of people have told me their concern is, oh, well, even if I don't drive an EV or a hybrid, they're still going to put that towards my registration. I think you said like the proposal was $250 extra or something.
The market research, the people that were polled that supported it at 60% preferred the $250. There were like three options. I think it was like 100, 150, and 250, and they supported the 250. To put that in perspective, the average Washoe County resident paid about $480 last year in fuel taxes. That obviously, that's the average. Depends on what kind of vehicle you drive. I paid about 600 because I get 20 miles to the gallon in my truck. Whereas you might have a car that you're getting 35, 40 miles, so you're paying a lot less. But so $250 is still less than the average for fuel tax in Washoe County per year.
And because I do know that depending on your car, depending on how new it is or what kind of car it is, I don't drive an EV or hybrid. But like I do know, like typically the newer your car, like the more expensive your registration fees are. I think the first year I had my car, I paid like $400 to register it that year, and it goes down every year. But I kept thinking about it. I was like, wow, so say that 250, if it was an EV, that'd be like $650 for the registration. Of course, not having to pay the tax. I mean, there's a lot of debate around it, but I just wanted some clarification on like how some of that would have been enforced. Thank you.
Yeah, Bill Newman for the record there. Do you come to all the neighborhood advisory board meetings and give this talk?
Yep. I cater it to the different neighborhoods. So like,
Ah.
tonight I talked about the projects in Ward 6. Tomorrow night I'm talking about the projects in Ward 3, but I'm also giving the educational piece about the ballot question.
Because you say you're always happy to come and visit us.
Yeah.
So I'm just after hours. Okay. How many of these do you do? The only question, is there any discussion or talk about lowering expenses?
In what ways?
In any way. I don't
For
care.
road construction?
Sure. Road construction, your salary, office salary, anything. Yeah.
When it comes to our road construction projects, there's a bidding process. So we'll typically go for the lowest bidder on these projects. Obviously, we've seen a lot of price hikes in the last couple of years. Materials went up, labor's gone up. And so keeping up with that, if without the indexing, we can do less projects, which means that our road network isn't as safe and as well conditioned as it should be. So when it comes to that, we do try to cut costs. We do have a pretty tight budget. When it comes to our transit, we have about a $40 million budget. And we have some creative ways to, make it all work. We've got some grants. For instance, We recently were awarded I want to say $22.5 million to purchase 19 hybrid buses. They're $1 million a piece, million plus a piece. So we do look at discretionary grants. We just were awarded a build grant for Sun Valley Boulevard of $25 million. We're always looking at different ways that we can make our local dollars stretch farther by supplementing it with federal money.
Question. For the public money that is put into the road work and for the bids, are the majority of those projects bid on non-union versus union? Are you able to say that?
I don't know for sure, but I think most of them are union.
Okay, so that means they're subject to prevailing wage and all of those additional state requirements and stuffs. Okay.
Anyone else? Mr. Nelson, always great to see you. Thank you again for coming. We appreciate it. And I'm actually going to send you an email probably later on this week, and we can talk about that street parking issue.
Yep, sounds good.
Awesome. I appreciate your help.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, moving right along. We are going to move on to agenda item B3. Again, as a reminder, B1 and B2 were withdrawn. So we're completely going out of order on the agenda tonight. B3 is going to be LDC 2600105 Mariloma to Walker transmission line. Do we have anybody here to present?
Good evening, Charles Hutchinson. For the record, I represent WSP. WSP is the owner's engineer and owner's environmental scientist working for NV Energy. To my right here is Shazad Latif, the senior VP for transmission development for NV Energy. And what we're doing tonight is just giving a brief presentation. I was told to keep it to about 10 minutes, so we'll keep this fairly smooth here. We've just got some slides that go through at the beginning of this what the Green Lake Nevada Transmission Project is and how it relates to the city of Reno specifically. Just some introductions. Again, myself, Charles Hutchinson, Shazad Latif. We've got a few folks in the audience who represent the Green Lake Nevada Energy team. Alex Drozdoff is their government relations manager from Northern Nevada. Mark Sullivan is a land use advisor for NV Energy, and joining us also is Lauren Martin with the WSP team on the environmental planning side. So just to briefly review this agenda, the Green Lake Nevada Transmission Project. We'll just go over an overview of what that is, and then we'll get into the details of what we call the common tie facilities in the city of Reno and what those facilities are proposed to look like. And then we'll wrap it up with some project contact information and take questions and comments from the board. So just as an overview, the Green Lake Nevada Transmission Project is made up of three basic components: Green Lake West, Common Tie, and then Green Lake North. Green Lake West starts in the Las Vegas area, and it's a 525 kV transmission line. So when we talk about kV, 1 kV is 1,000 volts. So 525 kV is 525,000 volts. That is the transmission line that's proposed between Las Vegas and just north of Yerington in Lyon County, where we've got the Walker River substation currently being constructed. So that line from Las Vegas to Yerington, that dotted line, is the proposed Green Lake West transmission line. The second part of the component of the overall system is the common tie facilities, which orient from the Walker River substation just north of Yerington. It's in that green dashed line there that basically those are three 345 kV transmission lines. So three 345,000 volt lines that emanate from the Walker River substation west and northwest. One of those lines terminates in the city of Reno at the existing Miraloma substation that NV Energy owns and operates. And we'll get into that area here just in another slide. The third component is Green Lake North, which is another 525 kV transmission line that orients from just north of Yerington at the Walker River substation due east out to White Pine County, where it terminates at the Robinson Summit substation. So this slide here just kind of breaks down the individual components of those different major assets within the Green Lake Nevada Transmission Project. The Mira Loma to Walker River transmission line is the subject of the conditional use permit application that we have before your planning department right now, and this is the subject of this presentation tonight. To get onto the purpose of Greenlink Nevada Transmission Project, the purpose is basically threefold. It's redundancy, resiliency, and reliability. By building this essentially transmission triangle, NV Energy increases the reliability of the entire system to its energy customers in Nevada. The line that's on the right-hand side of the slide here in the bold red line is NV Energy's online project that was constructed several years ago. That essentially forms one statewide transmission corridor. By completing the loop, if you will, the transmission triangle from Greenlink West, Common-Tie, and Greenlink North, they create a looped system that provides more reliability and redundancy, whereby NV Energy can redirect the flow of electricity east-west, north-south across the system, so that if there's any deficiencies or malfunctions that are picked up on the system, that electricity can be redirected to help maintain the entire reliability of the system. And when constructed, Greenlink West, Common-Tie, and Greenlink North will complete a second statewide transmission connection, thereby strengthening the overall system within Nevada. The overall project start began in 2020 when NV Energy filed the joint application with the Public Utilities Commission of Nevada to amend its 2018 Integrated Resource Plan. Every 2 years, NV Energy is required by the PUCN to amend or to relook at their Integrated Resource Plan to see what new facilities might need to be added, which facilities might need to be retired, and what that does to the rate case for NV Energy's customers. In March of 2021, the PUCN granted NV Energy the approval for the project components that we just reviewed on the previous slides. And then in July 2021, the Nevada governor signed Senate Bill 448 into law, which requires NV Energy to build onto its system this new infrastructure and to place that infrastructure into service by the end of 2028. So that essentially kicked off the Greenlink West transmission project and the Greenlink North transmission project. Greenlink West essentially includes the part of the common ties that are in the city of Reno's jurisdiction. That federal process began in May of 2022 when the BLM started the NEPA process, which is the federal government's environmental review, because most of the transmission assets and other project facilities are on federal land. So the BLM is the lead federal agency for that NEPA process for both Greenlink West and for Greenlink North. And these bullet points here just kind of paint out the timeline of when that NEPA process is going through, and the state and local government permitting that follows after the NEPA process is concluded. The Greenlink West, these next few slides just go into a little bit of detail about the BLM's NEPA process. I won't read everything on these slides, but this just gives you a timeline of how the project has progressed through the NEPA process since May of 2022. And the link here at the bottom, the project documents, that document site page links you to all of the BLM's environmental documents that they prepared for the EIS. It includes the draft EIS, the final EIS, the record of decision, which is the BLM's decision document that summarizes the entire project in one document. And that document site page is also a way to look at all of the mapping and data that was analyzed in the EIS. Part of the process for the NEPA process involves consultation and coordination with the public. This slide just shows the input that the BLM solicited throughout the process. They actually started with a series of public input workshops, which is a little atypical of a typical NEPA process. Usually they start at this public scoping period when they notice the intent to prepare an EIS in the Federal Register. But they went a step further in this particular instance. Before they actually got to the scoping period, they solicited input from the public to understand what resources might need to be considered more carefully in the EIS and to get some extra input before the actual scoping period started. The highlights here, just some information about the in-person public scoping meetings in Reno that was held in 2022. 17 attendees attended. The BLM sent out notifications to approximately 300 agencies and individuals and organizations, including Native American Indian tribes. And in the EIS between May of 2021 and January of 2024, the BLM coordinated with approximately 35 tribes. And there's documentation in the EIS about the notifications that were sent to the tribes, invitations for in-person meetings, and to make sure that Native American concerns were addressed in the EIS appropriately. Just a couple more slides here on the EIS. They identified and evaluated proposed action and alternative routes. So every route that was identified as being carried forward for analysis in the EIS was run through this list of resources, everything from air quality to land use and zoning, Native American religious concerns, paleontological resources, air water quality, socioeconomics, visual resources, what the lines would actually look like on the landscape, because that's a significant component of the BLM's analysis. So this list just provides some background on everything that was looked at from a resource standpoint in the BLM's EIS. After that information is presented in the EIS, there's a series of appendices, literally from A to Z, from everything that is included in the EIS and the management plans that back up that data that was presented in the EIS. Public comments, there's basically an 18-volume series of public comments that were included at the end of the EIS, where the BLM took substantive public comments and addressed those in the EIS. All right, so this map just shows in more detail where the common-tie facilities are located proximate to the city of Reno. As I mentioned earlier, they begin in the far right-hand corner at the bottom at the Walker River substation, which is currently under construction right now just north of Yerington. The three lines that emanate basically extend west from Walker River substation, so west is to the left. They go in generally a north and western orientation through Lyon County into Story County. And then the one yellow line that you see going into the city of Reno's jurisdiction, kind of on the upper left, to where it terminates at the Mira Loma substation, that 345 kV line is the subject of the conditional use permit application that we have in front of the city. So we call that the Mira Loma to Walker River transmission line. The other two lines both end at the Comstock Meadows substation that's in unincorporated Story County, basically in the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center area. So this just gives a broad overview of how that lines orient and where the Mira Loma to Walker River transmission line ends in the city of Reno. To zoom in a little closer, the yellow line that you see here is the proposed Mira Loma to Walker River transmission line. It starts in this particular view on the right there in Story County, then gets into the city of Reno's extraterritorial jurisdiction. When we had a pre-application meeting with the city to determine what the permitting requirements were, we were unclear as to if Washoe County planning would have certain permit requirements and the city of Reno would have certain permitting requirements. City planner in Reno talked with the Washoe County planner and decided that it would be city of Reno's jurisdiction that the planning process would need to go through. So the hatched lines that you see there, that pink hashed kind of orientation there, that represents the city of Reno's extraterritorial jurisdiction. The yellowish color is the actual city limits of the city of Reno, where the existing Mira Loma substation is situated. Within the extraterritorial jurisdiction and into the city of Reno, it's about 3.6 miles of 345 kV transmission line that's covered in the conditional use permit application. These two photos show what the proposed transmission structures would look like. These are existing photos of existing 345 kV facilities. The photo on the left is what we call a tangent structure. If you're driving down the highway and you see transmission structures kind of on the side of the hill or along the side of the freeway, the tangent structures are the ones that are in a straight line. So you'll see those in a straight line. And those are in an H-frame configuration. The typical height that NV Energy is looking for those is around 85 to 125 feet. It's all based on site-specific conditions, though, so it's not one size fits all. It's each individual structure is engineered specifically for the site that it's sitting on, based on topography and geology and soil conditions. The photo on the right is what we call a three-pole or a dead end or an angle structure. And the diameter of the base of those structures is a little bit larger than the tangent structures because the angle structures have to basically counterpose and compensate for the angle of the line pulling in two different directions. So in contrast to a tangent structure that's in one straight line, the angle structures have to accommodate the tension of the conductors pulling in two separate directions, which requires a larger foundation and stronger structures. The typical height range of those dead end poles or the angle structures is basically between 75 and 140 feet above ground. So often what we do in public forums is present a visual simulation of what the transmission line would look like on the landscape, because that's one of the most common questions we get is, what is this going to look like in my backyard? How am I going to be affected by the view? So last summer at about this time, I was out walking along Veterans Parkway, and the bikeway that leads up basically parallels the parkway there. I was trying to get a good vantage point for where we could take some photos. So the top photo is the existing conditions. The bottom photo, we have a photo visualization team at WSP that takes existing photos and can overlay the exact structure, the coordinates for that structure, where it sits on the latitude and longitude, where it is on the surface of the earth, how tall it is, the materials that it's built out of, and all of the 3D modeling and the engineering models that come into play, and place that on the landscape so that the public can see where that would look like and what it would look like relative to existing conditions. You really can't tell much of a difference because the existing transmission line, there's an existing 345 kV transmission line that's very close to the proposed line. If you look very hard, and I'd probably have to provide the PDF to this, but you can barely see, the existing transmission line there, and then the proposed transmission structures do appear basically kind of in the left third of that middle bottom photo. You can see the transmission structures just piercing the landscape there, but they're going to look the same as the existing structures for the most part. But we often like to provide this kind of visual view so that folks can see what it would look like from their point of view, because a lot of times they have one thing in their mind, and then when they see the actual photo rendering, it's completely different, or it's a lot less than sometimes what they would think that it would look like. It's a pretty powerful visual tool, so we can tell the public, here's what it's going to look like based on all of the engineering that's been done to date. This just goes over just some metrics of the line itself. Like I mentioned, it's about 3.6 miles in the city of Reno's jurisdiction. There will be a material yard that's located north of the Mira Loma substation. That covers about 16 acres within the city of Reno's limits. That will be a temporary yard that NV Energy will use to store and deliver materials for the construction of the transmission line. This slide just kind of goes through the permitting timeline and the land use permitting that we've worked with Nathan Gilbert and your planning department to get to this point. Back in 2025, in February, we had a pre-application with Nathan to understand what the permitting requirements were, so that we can provide an application that meets all of the requirements and there's less back and forth, and it provides a more efficient process for the city to review the application, and it gives us more flexibility on how we provide information and make sure that we're giving the city what the city requires per their code. And then we submitted the application to Nathan's department in July of 2025, and then understood that basically there's a code requirement that we have to have either a signed affidavit or a landowner easement in hand before the application can proceed to the planning commission review. We didn't have that initially when we first submitted it in July of 2025. NV Energy took a year to work with the landowner and to make sure that we had basically either the landowner's affidavits or an easement in place, or court order if it goes to that route in place, or at least the filing in place, so that we could demonstrate to the city that we're making progress on the application. We resubmitted the application in June, late June of 2026, just about a month and a half ago, to Nathan's department, and provided that additional information on the landowner contact and negotiations that we had. He deemed the application complete, and that set the stage for this meeting tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night for the Ward 3 meeting. And then, as this slide presents, just the anticipated meeting dates with the Planning Commission and the City Council in September and October. And because this is a project of regional significance, it also has to go through the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency to get them to basically review the application, amend their utility corridor map so that that mapping can be updated with the proposed transmission lines. And just a few other slides here at the end. It's not only local government requirements that we have to comply with. There's a host of state of Nevada and BLM, other federal requirements that we have to comply with. This slide just lists all of the state of Nevada requirements that we have to comply with, from Nevada Division of Environmental Protection, which governs air quality and water quality, Division of Forestry, Division of State Lands, NDOT. Anytime we cross a road, we have to get a use permit and a right-of-way occupancy permit for those facilities. Ultimately, this winds up at the Public Utilities Commission of Nevada's desk in the form of a Utility Environmental Protection Act permit, a UEPA permit to construct, which is basically the state's notice to proceed that NV Energy can begin construction. So we have to demonstrate to the state that we've got all of the local government permits in hand, all of the state government permits in hand, and provide that in a UEPA document that they analyze, review, and then we demonstrate that we've got proof of all those permits, and then they issue us the UEPA permit to construct for the project. This slide just lists the federal requirements. Again, the Bureau of Land Management being the lead federal agency. We also work with the Corps of Engineers on waters and impacts to waters of the U.S., and also the Federal Aviation Administration. We have to file with the FAA all the different structure locations to make sure that we're not impacting navigable airspace. And if we do, there's recommendations that the FAA will put forward as far as basically marking and lighting of the transmission structures, height restrictions, and things that we can do to mitigate where we can to avoid impacting navigable airspace. The project schedule, local, state, and federal permitting has been going on since 2025, and the construction in the city of Reno is tentatively scheduled for the spring of 2027. At the peak of construction, you could see anywhere between 200 to 400 people, basically between Yerington and Reno. It's not going to be all in one place at one time. The construction is sequenced based on material deliveries and contractor obligations to construct the line in a certain fashion. Each of these lines is sequenced a little differently based on construction schedules and in-service dates. So that 200 to 400 people is just an estimate, but it could change up or down based on dynamics of the project. And as I mentioned, as I think one of the other gentlemen mentioned, global politics being what they are, sometimes we get material delivered on schedule, sometimes it's delayed depending on what country it might be coming from. So there's all kinds of dynamics that go into play here and can influence when we can construct and what we can construct with the materials that we've got. This last slide just gives the project contact email and the website address where folks can go to get more information about the project. Contact the NV Energy GreenLink team to get your questions answered. And then at the end of this, there's the Acela Citizen Access, which was provided by Nathan Gilbert in the Planning Department, where citizens of Reno can go in and look at the project documents that have been submitted to the City of Reno through the Planning Department process. And with that, I'll turn it over to the board for any questions or comments you might have.
Brad Conway for the record. Gentlemen, I want to say thank you for the kind of like before and after. I think that was vital for the community to see that because it answered a lot of my questions just out of the gate. I think at the end of the day, when we talk about transmission lines or we talk about electricity or any type of utility, people take it for granted that they turn on their lights and you flip the switch and it's going to work.
Right.
And you never, it's funny, there was a post online today about an outage, power outage, and somebody was like, was that planned? And I'm like, probably not. But they just kind of take it for granted that we're going to have this. And in order for us to continue to have this, especially with the State of the Union being what it is down in southern Nevada and at the Hoover Dam, we have to continue to expand our infrastructure. It has to happen. So with that, I don't see where you're making a major impact to anybody in our community. You're simply adding on to what we already have. And I might have missed something in the presentation, and maybe somebody else on the board has something besides what I caught there. But with that, I'm gonna give you my blessing on this, and you'll get a positive review from me for the project. And with that, I'm gonna turn it over to the board.
Sarah Collins for the record. So you went into detail of all of the outreach that you did. What was the public participation, and what was the result, the gist of that participation?
The EIS can speak more to detail about the actual number of attendees to the different public scoping meetings. But as I put up on the slide, in April of 2022, there were 17 folks who attended the in-person scoping meeting in the city of Reno. The BLM advertised not just in the city of Reno, but basically everywhere from Las Vegas up to Reno at different points in major communities. There were gatherings, there were public scoping meetings to gather public input. There were also online forums. So it wasn't always in person, because in this day and age, post-COVID, a lot of people feel more comfortable just staying at home and participating that way. So there was an online virtual option for folks to get involved and to provide comments through that forum as well. But I don't have specific numbers. The only one that I do have was highlighted there as far as the number of attendees who attended the in-person public scoping in Reno.
If I may add, Shazad Latif, I appreciate Charles giving me a promotion to a senior VP. I'm a senior director, transmission development policy. Yeah, I know. Thank you. I came here as a director and became a VP, so I appreciate that. I think if you were talking about just specific Reno participation, I think Charles has covered it. I've been to all over state, and every jurisdiction has different concerns and different issues. The dynamics of Nevada, I've been with NV Energy for 31 years. The dynamics of Nevada is very, very unique. So when you go to White Pine County, they have very different concerns than you see in Las Vegas. And when you go to Beatty or Tonopah, they have very different concerns then. So I think some of these, you talked about the gist of what the concerns were. Some of the rural Nevada is more concerned with renewable development and how it's going to impact the landscape and the pristine desert that we have, how it's going to impact that. Reno, you get a lot, and most of that rest of the Nevada, we are in public lands, on BLM land. When we come to Reno, as Charles mentioned and showed, we are going through some private parcels, small amount of private parcels as we land into that substation. There's not a lot of concern with development of renewables, but it is more of concern of going through those private parcels. So I think then participation has changed, different with city of Reno versus in the town of Beatty or Tonopah, but that's kind of the general gist. And frankly, the rural Nevada has very little interest in the growth in the metropolitan cities. Yeah, so I think that's the gist of it, that they say, they look at the infrastructure development and they say, well, we don't really care what is happening in Las Vegas or Reno, because this project seems very much focused on those cities, when it is essentially for our state's energy independence, that we rely less on energy from out of state. So I think that's been the message, but it changes as we go in. But I think Mr. Conway, you nailed it on the head. The infrastructure is needed, and energy is kind of the vital lifeline for us to not only continue to grow, but also sustain what we currently have. Just wanted to add that.
And Just as a reminder for the members of the board to, we are looking at and discussing the conditional use permit as it applies to our ward. So, even though this particular topic is bigger than that, we need to make sure that we kind of stay focused on the impact to Ward 6, because as he said, I mean, there's going to be different where we're at in the region. I mean, this runs across the state, and we can't speak for anybody other than the residents of Ward 6.
Alina Johnson for the record. Thank you for that presentation, Charles and Shazad. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. And yeah, we all want to move or travel to the Reno Tahoe area, but how are these restaurants that we're consuming at, and how are all these places running if we're not getting more power to them, right? If we're not getting that power, what did you call it? Our state's energy independence. I love that phrase. You would think that the word independence hits home with the rural areas. It is rural areas are beautiful, but we all want to move here or travel here, and how are we going to power our electric vehicles, right? So that's a really good point. I don't even own a TV. I haven't owned a TV in years. I don't use that much electricity. I just think it's important for us to continue to move this way because, look, they're going to be ugly. Power lines are ugly. I do think your show and tell of the difference with the before and the after the proposal could be a little even more transparent if you actually maybe pointed at it. We couldn't see it even on the big screen. I think that makes a good point. Like, look, it's going to be not that big. But I do think from different angles, it is going to be uglier. I don't mind it. I just think it would be good for your presentation. It would be less obfuscating for someone to say from different angles, oh, this is going to be closer to my house. It's just more transparent. But I think it's a good idea either way. The only question I have after those comments is if you have an example of how Sarah asked a bit of it, how tribal, religious, paleontological concerns were addressed, if any. Can you give examples of that at all?
Yeah, the EIS has different sections in it that address each of those concerns. I can't speak to that specifically because WSP and NV Energy have to remain impartial during the NEPA process. So the BLM is the lead federal agency, and they hired Logan Simpson Design as an independent third-party contractor to write the EIS with the BLM. NV Energy has to remain objective and outside of that process, but so I can't speak to the details exactly of all the different paleontological and Native American religious concerns that were addressed in the EIS, but basically for every resource that you look at in the EIS, whether it's air quality or water quality or Native American concerns, the Bureau of Indian Affairs gets involved because they have to do an agency-to-agency consultation process with the BLM to make sure that all of the Native American tribes' concerns are addressed. So basically, whatever you look at in the EIS, there's a federal law that dictates this resource is under these purviews of federal legislation. You have to look at these aspects of that resource to make sure you're not infringing on one resource more than the other and addressing it adequately based on the commensurate level of impact that the project would have. You can't write 5 pages in the EIS for a resource that might have 3 sentences of impact, and vice versa. You can't look at something not that much when it's going to have a huge impact, perhaps. That's why it's an EIS. It's an environmental impact statement. We know that there's going to be a significant impact to one or more of the resources. But the EIS paints that in fine detail on every resource there. So I would direct you to look at those sections of the EIS. And that document site page that I linked to will give you the direct access to whatever you want to find, whatever resource you're more interested in. It's got the full detailed evaluation of all of the different route alternatives, not just of the one that was chosen to be the one constructed and permitted, but all of the other route alternatives that were evaluated. They have to go through the same evaluation process so that when the BLM publishes its record of decision, it's putting apples to apples. You know, here's everything that we looked at for all the different resources. Here's how they stack up together, and they have a table in the document that basically compares all of the resources against all of the alternatives and comes out with a recommendation of which one is the least environmentally damaging that still meets NV Energy's engineering requirements, the operational requirements, and all of the federal rules and regulations that NV Energy has to abide by as an energy provider.
Thank you for that.
I'll add one more or two more comments. One, there's extensive surveys done, even on the route, to identify any cultural, biological, anything of material. And then second comment I wanted to make is there are always inspectors. So BLM has inspections that kind of work alongside the construction to monitor that all those resources are preserved.
Thank you, guys. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Second question. Hi. Sorry, Sarah Collins for the record. Thank you so much for going into detail about all of the regulations and all of the bureaucracy that you guys have had to endure. But because this is energy, how is the conversation now developing alongside data centers?
Data centers is a type of load, and I think the way we look at it, NV Energy has an obligation to serve all load. So if you, as the city of Reno, approves data centers being built, it's our obligation to serve them, if that's how they choose to do. If this is no different than if you approve an industrial park. So our obligation is to serve any load that is constructed under the jurisdiction of any of the city or county. It's not, these projects started way before the conversation of data centers even came into being. But we knew the city of Reno, the Northern Nevada, is going to continue to grow. As it stands today, the city of, electrically, the city of Reno has no transmission import capacity. So if somebody new comes in and wants to build a large industrial park or large casino and say, hey, we want to get our power for somewhere else, they don't have the ability to do it, because we don't have the transmission import capacity into Northern Nevada. So electrically, this stops the growth. And that's what we are trying to get back to, that this, the Senate Bill 448 very specifically talked about giving additional 800 megawatts of capacity into Northern Nevada. So it was very specific, written to support the growth. All of this started in 2019 and even way before, because I had the opportunity to run our transmission department way before, when this project was in conception in mid 2015s. And this predates all of the data centers, but we know some level of load is going to come. At that time, there was, when we were talking about 2013 and 2014, there was no Tahoe Reno Industrial Center. There was still very, very high level concept, but there was no large customers there that early on. I'm talking about even 2010s and before online came in. So again, our obligation is to serve any load that the city thinks it's in the best interest of the company. If you think that you approve data centers, we will be ready. We want to be ready to serve them. If you improve industrial parks, we want to be ready to serve them.
Yeah, Bill Newman for the record. I just want to make sure these poles are not timber, they're metal.
Correct. They're self-weathering steel. It's a material called Corten. So it basically gives the appearance of rust over time, but it's
How
steel.
deep are they buried into the ground?
That's a function of basically the seismology and the geology of a particular
Well, 100 feet?
But basically it's...
And are they loaded with
20 to 30
concrete
feet.
or just put in the ground?
Yeah, it's 20 to 30 feet below ground.
20 to 30.
20, yeah, and it's generally the foundation, the concrete foundation is 20 feet, but it depends.
So they are in concrete.
Yes, the foundation is.
Is there any concern about sparking wires that would create possibility of land fires along any of this route?
These are, well, first, all of these are built. We don't travel through any of the high risk wildfire areas. So a lot of this is brush areas. Second, when we talked about the distance, the 75 to 140 feet, that is to maintain enough clearance from the ground. And these are high voltage lines, and they are built to the current standard I think some of the risks that we have been talking about exist from the lines that were built almost a century ago or even 50 years ago. These lines, again, are built to a standard that will minimize the impact for any wildfires.
And the whole purpose of this is to give Nevada Energy reliability throughout the state of Nevada, up to and including the Mira Loma Power Station, the city of Reno?
Correct. So reliability, resiliency, and transmission import capacity that I just talked about.
Are you an electrical engineer?
Yes, sir.
You are.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Gentlemen, I appreciate it. I don't have any additional questions.
We need to check for public comment. on
We do
this
need to check
one.
for public
Yeah.
comment. Do we have any
Who are
public comment on this?
Online and would like to provide public comment, please raise your hand. If we have anyone in person. Okay, not seeing any. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Gentlemen, that was a great presentation. I really do appreciate it, and I wish you the best of luck. Like I said, you actually have my blessing on this. I have to do a project worksheet on it. It was a great presentation. I think you did a great job. I wish more people would come in front of this board with before and after, especially with AI now.
Yeah.
Because that's probably our biggest challenge is people want to know what's the visual impact going to be. I know Bill had a great question about what's the fire impact going to be. But it's so important for us to be able to us, and not only us, but the public to be able to visualize it. And for me, as soon as I saw the fact that you were running right along an existing power line, and again, I have to sit there and look at it from a couple of things, which is one, I'm only able to represent Ward 6. That nailed it for me. There's already power line there.
Right.
It's not, I mean, there's only so much you're going to do that's going to make that look worse. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. We are a little over time, but we do have a waiver to go long tonight. Is that correct?
Yes, we're normally capped at 3 hours, which puts us at 8:30, but we are able to go a little over tonight.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. Next on the agenda is going to be LDC 260073, and that is going in with ANX 260003. And if you can state your name for the record, we don't have a secretary right now. State your name for the record.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Andy Durling with Wood Rogers representing the Rhyolite Aggregate Facility. Chris Benna, owner and general manager, is with me as well tonight from Rhyolite. What's coming before you is a few different requests. It's in 2 items. I'm just going to cover it in one presentation, though. I think it's kind of cleaner that way to give you the full picture. It's an annexation to bring 7 parcels of about 252 acres into the city of Reno. It's a master plan amendment from county land use designations to city of Reno designations, including single family, neighborhood, large lot residential, and parks, greenways, and open space. And then as a zoning map amendment to rezone all 252 acres to specific plan district. That's a zoning tool that we have. You'll see SPDs and PUDs, plan unit developments, as those zoning tools to address kind of specific site constraints or site characteristics. Also as part of that rezoning, we're removing about 4 acres from the Caramella Ranch PUD and including it in the Rhyolite PUD or SPD for continuity. A little background, this site has been an aggregate facility since the 1970s. There's been a special use permit that was issued from Washoe County decades ago that's been in good standing. It allows for that aggregate mining to occur or continue until 2050 as at the outside date. We don't anticipate we're going to go that far, and that's actually why we're in front of you now, is to look at the sort of second life for this property, because it is getting close to being fully kind of extinguished of the usable material there. And so we're looking at the next life for it. As part of that special use permit, there is a reclamation plan that's on file. That reclamation plan is essentially is the plan that would is the end of life of the mine, where they would smooth out the terrain, revegetate the slopes, and as part of that, also there's a bond on file with the county for that revegetation if they were to fail to do it. So taking these kind of in their parts, annexation, 7 parcels, about 252 acres, as I mentioned. 2 of those parcels are really small slivers that are they're actually in Western Skies right of way. There was a dedication map that dedicated all of that land, and for whatever reason, there's a few sliver parcels that were not represented correctly in the assessor's data. So we're working with the city to clean that up, but just as out of an abundance of caution, we're including those in the annexation to bring them into the city. It's going to be a city right of way anyway, so it's not a big deal there. All these properties are within the city's sphere of influence, so that's the land the city has identified as being next in line to be annexed. And more importantly, it is contiguous with the existing city of Reno boundary. Just that one small kind of enclave there of 1 acre county lots off of Stanley and Western Skies, if you see on the map there. That's just kind of a little county island that would remain because it's 1 acre residences. Adjacent properties in the area are all served by City of Reno services, and annexation will occur prior to the master plan amendment and rezoning. So just an order of events before the Planning Commission and City Council, that annexation has to happen first. With respect to the master plan amendment, as I mentioned, the properties currently have county master plan designations. They don't actually have a city master plan designation yet. They have rural for the majority of it, or suburban residential, that pink color on the left exhibit there. The middle exhibit, that's essentially what would occur, what would be assigned to this property once it's annexed. So it's a mix of unincorporated transition, which is essentially in the city of Reno's master plan. It's kind of a holding zone for these kind of edge communities, edge neighborhoods, before a more formalized plan comes forward, as well as a little large lot neighborhood there. Then we obviously are proposing a master plan amendment, and with that, we are getting more specific in what we're trying to propose here. So it's single family neighborhood in the bright yellow there, large lot neighborhood in the lighter yellow up near those 1 acre existing county residential lots, and then parks, greenways, and open space in the green. And then the zoning associated with this zoning map request, we're asking that all of it be rezoned to SPD, specific plan district. That essentially then gives us the ability to define very specific design guidelines for this property. Given the fact that it is an existing aggregate facility, it will continue to be an aggregate facility for the next few years while they extinguish all that resource. And so we needed to address that sort of interim period. And so that SPD is actually a really great tool for that. And then the future use of it, we have identified as SF8 as being the predominant use there. And large lot residential 1 acre lots in the blue, with a large portion of it in open space. Also included in the SPD, we are able to show essentially what that reclamation will look like from a grading standpoint. So you'll see a continuation of kind of the benching and cut slope as it comes down on the eastern side, which if you've been out there, you've probably seen it from across the valley. That all gets revegetated. And then what's left is kind of that SF8 area in the middle, which is the flatter portions of the site that are reclaimed after the mining activities are done. And ultimately a subdivision could be constructed there. As part of that SPD, we do have the ability to limit the development. So where that 92 acres of single family 8 units per acre could allow for upwards of 700 residential homes, we are not looking at that type of intensity. We're actually looking at about 350 maximum residential units, single family residential units. They could be attached or detached, and a range of lot sizes from 3,000 square feet up to the 1 acre lots, which are in the blue there in the 22 acres on the north. It does have 138 acres of open space. There'll be some opportunities for trails and things like that, but largely they're very steep slopes. That's the kind of the mountainside there. And like I mentioned, residential construction will not start until the mining activity is complete. So the mining will be completely done. It will be to a point of being reclaimed, essentially, the contours smooth and revegetated, and then residential construction. So we're putting in some safeguards into the SPD such that, a first final map can't be recorded until all of that grading has been completed. So some of the next steps, we're obviously here tonight. We will be hosting a neighborhood meeting probably in early September. Because of it's a master plan amendment, state law requires that we, the applicant, host a neighborhood meeting. So we'll be sending postcards out to the same people that would get postcards for the planning commission. And so because we're on, there's kind of some steps have to go in place here. We're looking at probably in September for that neighborhood meeting. October, we're anticipating for the planning commission, and then council in November, December timeframe. Because this is also a master plan amendment, it automatically goes to the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Commission for conformance review with the regional plan. So that would be TBD, probably the beginning of next year. Nathan Gilbert is a principal planner and our staff planner on this. His information's there. My information is also provided, as well as links to the city's Acela website to download all the information that we're submitting to the city. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Brad Conway for the record. Mr. Durling, thank you very much. You might have already answered this. What are they currently mining up there?
So it's all aggregate mining. So essentially they're taking rock off the hills, breaking it down into different products that are used in construction. So whether it's road base, topsoil for landscaping, things like that.
Okay. And if you could go back a couple of slides for me.
Say when.
Right there. That's great. Perfect. Right there. All right. So I'd love the fact that you're planning on revegetating it. I do want to talk about that very quickly. What are you going to revegetate it with?
Sure. So the revegetation is we have our wildland biologists or landscape architects. They utilize a seed blend that's native plants, sagebrush and grasses that are in the area. And so it's revegetated with that.
Okay.
Seed beds.
All right. I have a couple of concerns. One concern I have with this project is that it is locking us in to 350 single family homes. Reno is in dire need of multifamily housing. So I want to go on the record as saying I am not a fan of that. There's plenty of land there, and I think we need to consider why we're doing single family homes and as opposed to mixed use.
Sure. No, yeah, great point, and absolutely, I've represented a lot of multifamily projects around town over the years, and I think when we looked at it in the context of the existing neighborhood out there, Caramella Ranch, Damani Ranch, obviously being predominantly single family, so we have a land use pattern that's already established out there. Take that into the context of the site itself, the site constraints that we have. As I mentioned, right, we're doing a lot of grading out there. It's an aggregate pit. The end result is flatter, but it's not a flat site. And so, larger building footprints for multifamily development really needs a flat site, whereas single family can kind of step up the hill a little easier because of the smaller footprint. So it is more conducive to single family detached in this kind of site context than maybe somewhere else. So it is site specific.
But I think if we're going to say that, we can also say right now it's a aggregate pit and we can do whatever we want with it. So we could grade it any way we wanted to.
To a degree, right? To a degree of financial viability. Because obviously you can move a lot of dirt, but that just gets more and more expensive, and we're kind of
okay.
Cutting off the nose to spite our face.
I'm always concerned as a board member with the cost of living in Reno. The cost of living in Reno is skyrocketing. Now, the fact that you're putting in, or asking me to put in 350 new homes is fantastic, because obviously that's going to give us supply, and we all know that housing is driven by supply and demand. But I just feel like we need to look at this deeper than single family homes. My next concern is something that just happened, I believe about 4 or 5, maybe 6 weeks ago. There's a lot of elevation there. There's a good chunk of hill there. And we had some major flooding up in Hidden Valley. Is that going to be a concern here?
No. So there are downstream facilities that have already been constructed. So through Caramella Ranch, through Damani Ranch, there are large drainage channels that ultimately take water to the Damani Ranch wetlands and ponds and things like that. You can't point with this thing, can you?
You really can't. No.
No. So on the very south side, and it's hard to read the contours. You can see it may be easier on the middle graphic there. You can see the canyons kind of coming out of the hills through the open space. And on Banta Way, which is going to be one of the where the notch is out of the yellow SF8 area there. That's Banta Way that kind of dead ends into the site right now. Right next to Banta Way is a large drainage channel. So that drainage all kind of goes through the site and through that canyon essentially, and ultimately ends up in there's a detention facility there as well as drainage channels that convey that water. So it's all been master planned ahead of us to take that water and take it to the Damani wetlands.
Once we, on the same topic of flooding though, right now, because that's just an aggregate pit.
Mhm.
So when we get the unprecedented rainfall, and those storms are really interesting because I was actually at the Hidden Valley Dog Park when the last one hit, and I got out just in time, and it wasn't even raining at my house. It's insane. It's like and that's the second time in 2 or 3 years that Hidden Valley's gotten nailed like that. And that dog park still isn't reopened. I know there's people that have lost their homes. Does that pit fill up with water right now?
There is a pit, yes, but it's not meant to, right? It does take water because it's a giant hole in the ground, but
Okay,
once we're done, it won't. There'll be some detention. You can see sort of in the middle on the right side, that's the grading plan. And so in the middle, kind of upper left corner there, you'll see kind of the contours start to make a ring. That will be a detention pond.
Okay.
Other side.
Other side.
The plan on this side.
Okay.
So there will be a detention facility. It'll have an outlet, right? It won't just be a holding pond. It'll be a detention facility in the future.
All right, I'm gonna turn this over to the board for more questions for you, and then we'll come back around. So starting down on this end. No questions? Can we go to the other end? Okay, down this direction.
Who does the re-veg bond transfer to the city, or will the county hold it till it's all re-veg?
We're working through the logistics of that right now, but yes, our anticipation is that bond would transfer to the city. It's complicated because there's a special use permit and a development agreement in the county that outlines all of those responsibilities. The city, because it's in their sphere, the city has already exerted their extra jurisdictional territory over this area. So they have planning authority, and with the annexation, they take full authority over the property. And so we just have to work through those logistics between the county and the city to get those transferred. But yes, that's a lot
the
of
bond part is the
Yep.
hard part. So
Yep.
I'm just curious how you're doing it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Definitely on our radar and something we're working through with staff.
Bill Newman for the record, these 350 single-use family units, any of them for affordable housing?
I mean, they would be all market rate.
All market rate. Thank you.
Unfortunately, we're not. Again, we're all up here and we all hear the same concerns from a different set of constituents.
Absolutely.
And so you're gonna wind up with that same pushback, I think, across the board.
Yeah. Understood.
Where Bill's gonna look at it, or Board Member Newman, I should say, is gonna look at it from affordable housing. I'm looking at it from, can we put multifamily housing in? Because the fact of the matter is we are running out of land to build in Reno. Now, I will say the great thing is I love the fact that we're taking an aggregate pit and reutilizing it. I'm still finding it a very hard swallow that we can't move dirt and place a multifamily home. We could put in duplexes, we could put in quads. There's something we could do there.
And I guess I should clarify. I mean, we did not, we did allow for, it is allowed for townhomes and things like that, because that's a little bit smaller footprint, higher density. And that could be how we get up to the 350 units. So we haven't precluded that, right? I mean, this is the zoning stage right now. We don't have a builder on, in tow. This is the property owner kind of anticipating, the end of life of their current business and looking for the next life for the property. And so we're trying to hedge a little bit. Is it multifamily? No, but it does allow for, townhomes and maybe some higher density single family, which gets to, we hear a lot about missing middle in our region, but, across the country. And that really is that band, right? It's the attached housing, smaller lot, single family, which is, quote unquote, missing middle, which may not be definition affordable housing, but it is more your attainable housing source that, I think we're calling for
And I think
as a region.
And I appreciate you trying to get us there. You have to understand the NAB's position, or the NAB's job, is to speak on behalf of the community. And so we have to fill out worksheets that go up to council, and they take it into consideration. And I think that, we don't get to vote on your project. But I like to be very transparent with everybody. And it's a pretty big rarity that I would say I'm not for a project. It's not that I'm against your project. I am thinking we need to possibly, and that's what I'm going to put in my worksheet, look at the use of this land, because I understand, like you said, it costs money to move dirt. I'm not arguing that fact, but that's a one-time cost. And I think we need to look at that.
Okay.
And that's what's going to wind up in my worksheet.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Appreciate that.
Okay. So
Yeah.
just be aware of that. All right. Does anybody have anything else? Okay. Do we have any public comment on this?
If you are online and would like to make public comment at this time, please raise your hand. I am not seeing anyone raising their hand online.
All righty. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I appreciate it. All right. Moving on to, I really hope I haven't missed anything on this agenda because we went so far out of order tonight. Tyler and Ms. Johnson, I believe I'm on item D, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, Board, Commission, Committee member reports, announcements, and discussion of future agenda items. I have nothing for this evening. Anybody else?
So I just have a quick note to share. Julia Moreno Fritz for the record. I'm officially resigning from Ward 6 NAB. I'll be moving out of the ward and I can no longer serve, but I just wanted to thank each and every one of you for making this such a rewarding experience.
Is this your last meeting?
Alina
Yeah.
Johnson, for the record, you can serve.
Oh, I can't. Well,
You will still be in Reno.
Oh, I talked with Callie and she said since I'm not working in Ward 6,
Gotcha.
yeah. So, well, I have officially, right, Callie?
Yes, it's if for the most part, Julia is welcome to talk to Councilmember Anderson if she wants to continue her service and they come, to an agreement. But we usually like to have someone have a connection to the ward, but it is ultimately Julia can talk to Councilmember Anderson as well.
Yeah, and I might talk with her, but as of right now, I've officially resigned. So I just wanted to thank you all so much. It's been wonderful.
I want to thank you. You have been a pleasure to have on the board.
Oh, thank you.
You have spoken so eloquently and graciously, and you've represented our community so well. And I personally want to thank you on behalf of myself and Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you so much, Brad. That means so much. I really appreciated this experience. I loved working with all of you, and I love that we made a difference in our community together. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julia.
All right. Moving on, anybody else for comment?
I do not have anyone online with their hand raised.
Okay, any public, so no public comment? No public comment. All right, so that takes care of item E and D. I'm going to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. I'll make the motion to adjourn the August 3rd meeting of the Ward 6 Neighborhood Advisory Board. I need a second.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We still made it out of here on time.